Chapter 199. Su Zimo looked at the Wolf King on the green rock. Enduring the pain from his organs, he racked his brains, thinking of all possible ways to escape. The possibility was minuscule. Firstly, the Wolf King was way too strong. To Su Zimo, it was crushing and destructive. There was almost no possibility of resistance. Secondly, the Wolf King was way too fast. If not for the help of his spirit perception, Su Zimo would have died just now. His only chance of survival was in Su Zimo's blood-bone palm. To this day, Su Zimo still did not know what the blood-bone palm was. However, he knew that the blood-bone palm was indestructible and contained terrifying power. If he could hit the Wolf King's body, there was a high chance that it would be severely injured. Roar! The surrounding Foundation establishment wolves bared their fangs and lowered their heads. Their eyes shone fiercely as they let out a series of howls. Howl, howl! The wolves that covered the mountains and plains howled in unison. The sound was terrifying, and it startled countless birds. Su Zimo took a deep breath and forced a relaxed smile. Damned monkey, we're back to 2 years ago when we fought side by side. Ow ow! Despite being in the midst of a pack of wolves that could lose its life at any moment, the spirit monkey was not afraid. Instead, it was extremely excited and its eyes were filled with joy. This joy came from the reunion with Su Zimo. Su Zimo could sense the spirit monkey's emotions and could not help but laugh. 2 years ago, we did not dare to fight these beasts head-on. It's a rare opportunity today. Let's kill to our heart's content. Damned monkey. Let me see how much you've improved in the past 2 years. Roar. When the spirit monkey heard that, it roared. His bloodline surged within his body and his flesh expanded. The spirit monkey's body expanded and he swung his rod, taking the lead and charging into the pack of wolves. The rod was powerful and shocking. Although the wolf opposite him was also at the Foundation establishment realm, a hint of panic flashed in its eyes. It did not dare to take it head-on and dodged to the side. Poof! The wolves at the back were not so lucky. After being swept by the spirit monkey's rod, many wolves had their brains splattered and died on the spot. Crash! Su Zimo channeled his chi and blood, causing the tides in his body to roar with a frightening momentum. Streaks of azure lightning appeared on the surface of his skin, crackling chaotically and dazzling to the eyes. Crack! Su Zimo then swung his arm, and a pillar of lightning as thick as an arm exploded in the middle of the pack of wolves. Lightning shot out in all directions and green smoke billowed. Under this terrifying power of thunder, the spirit beast-level wolves were electrocuted to death. The 2 Foundation realm wolves were also in a sorry state. Their fur curled up and their bodies trembled. Whoosh! 2 other Foundation establishment wolves pounced from the side. Their sharp claws glinted coldly as they bared their sharp fangs and bit viciously at Su Zimo's neck. If this bite landed, even with Su Zimo's powerful physical body, he would definitely not be able to withstand it. You're courting death. Su Zimo's eyes lit up. With a loud shout, he swung his left arm, drawing a huge arc in the air. Using his fist as a seal, he suddenly dropped down. Bang! The gigantic seal smashed heavily on the head of the wolf, and the sound of bones cracking could be heard. Without a single sound, the Foundation establishment wolf fell from midair. On the surface, the wolf looked completely fine without any injuries. However, the inside of its head was already shattered by the tremendous force. At the same time, Su Zimo flipped his right hand and spread his fingers, slamming his palm against the chest of another wolf with a force that could shatter mountains. Sob! The wolf howled tragically and fell. Su Zimo closed in on it. Bang! Instantly, the Foundation establishment wolf was sent flying and its tendons and bones were broken. Before it landed on the ground, it was already dead. In the blink of an eye, Su Zimo killed 2 Foundation establishment wolves in a row. His aura surged and he exuded a chilling killing intent, filling the air with a thick stench of blood. The spirit monkey swung his rod, swinging it with a ferocious aura that even water would not be able to penetrate. Piak! 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 The spirit monkey's gaze was ferocious. He was tall and had long arms and immense strength. Any wolf that was struck by his rod would either be injured or die. Behind the spirit monkey, Su Zimo had a calm expression. Even in such a situation, his eyes were still calm and there was no trace of panic. The 6 inferior-grade flying swords were shattered by the Jindan Realm Wolf King with a single slap. As for the Cold Moon Saber and Sanguine Crystal Bow, they were left in the inheritance ground of the Fiend Sex, and he did not have the time to bring them out. Right now, Su Zimo was fighting against the wolves bare-handed. Even so, given Su Zimo's physical strength, the wolves were not able to defend against him. Bang! 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 Just a casual punch or kick had the power of a thunderbolt, causing the air to explode. Many wolves pounced forward in a dense pack and were about to drown Su Zimo. However, with a slight pause, the wolves were sent flying and fell to the ground, most likely dead. In the blink of an eye, the ground beneath the feet of the man and monkey was filled with wolf corpses. The killing continued. Out of more than 10 Foundation establishment wolves, there were only 9 left. The 9 wolves were extremely intelligent. They realized that their strength was not enough to threaten the man and monkey. Therefore, they paced around the periphery, waiting for an opportunity to strike. The wolves were very patient. In their opinion, be it the spirit monkey or the human, there would come a time when their strength would be exhausted. When the man and monkey's strength weakened and they were mentally exhausted, there would definitely be flaws in their defense. At that time, it would be the moment for them to launch a fatal attack. However, as time passed, the 9 wolves were disappointed. The spirit monkey was clearly fatigued. Its strength and speed were not as good as before. However, the flaws revealed by the spirit monkey were all compensated by the terrifying strength of the human. The human seemed to possess endless strength. Up till this point, his eyes were still clear and bright. His battle intent was high and his killing intent was surging. Not only that, he seemed to be getting braver as the battle progressed. The physique of this human was even stronger than theirs. This human was more like a true spirit demon. The wolves did not know that the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the Great Wilderness was extremely powerful to begin with. In addition, Su Zimo had cultivated the Void Thunder Manual, the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra, and many other secret skills. He had reached the realm where his blood was like tidal waves and his voice was like thunder. His stamina was even more shocking. This pack of wolves could not threaten him at all. Although the wolves were demons, their bloodline was too ordinary. The reason why they could dominate the Tsonglang mountain range was entirely because of their massive numbers and superior intelligence. If not for the Jindan Realm Wolf King watching from the side, Su Zimo would have charged out with the spirit monkey a long time ago. Although there were many wolves in the surroundings, they were like clay chickens and pottery dogs in front of Su Zimo. They could not withstand a single blow. Roar! Right then, the Wolf King stood up from the green rock and let out a deafening roar. The Wolf King could no longer sit still. Initially, it thought that since Su Zimo was severely injured, its tribesmen could easily surround and kill the man and monkey. It could even use this opportunity to train the combat strength of the wolf pack. However, as time passed, the Wolf King gradually realized that something was amiss. If this carried on, its tribesmen would suffer too many casualties. The Wolf King decided to attack personally and bite the man and monkey to death cleanly. Pust! 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 Sensing the Wolf King's actions, Su Zimo began to inhale slowly. A huge airflow passed through his throat, letting out a strange sound. The skin around his throat was torn by the airflow and traces of blood seeped out. Su Zimo knew that whether he could survive or not depended on this clash with the Wolf King. Chapter 200. Anaconda Eclipse. It was a secret skill from the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the Great Wilderness. Su Zimo's chest puffed up at a speed visible to the naked eye in an extremely frightening manner. A scene seemed to flash through the eyes of many wolves. A gigantic anaconda coiled its body, rearing its head to devour the sun and moon. Legs grew beneath its abdomen and 2 horns on its head. It wanted to soar into the air and transform into a dragon. A look of mockery flashed through the eyes of the alpha. No matter what the human before him did, it was all to no avail. The difference between them was too great. Core formation was a complete suppression for Foundation establishment cultivators without any suspense. Since the primordial era, countless monster incarnates have appeared throughout the endless years. However, there were only a handful of geniuses who could kill living beings of core formation at Foundation establishment realm. Every single one of them was a terrifying expert whose name was left behind in history. The alpha refused to believe that this weak human before it possessed such capabilities. Swoosh! The alpha leaped and a gust of wind blew over. It was too fast. It was completely beyond Suzumo's perception. Instinctively, Suzumo closed his eyes and used his sharp spirit perception to determine the danger and the approximate location of the alpha. The middle finger and thumb of his left hand interlocked to form a seal, and the image of a fiend subduing appeared in his mind. Pressing forward, he hollered, "Kill!" Anaconda Eclipse combined with Thunderclap Kill, and Fiend Suppression Seal burst forth instantly. In the process of fighting against the wolf pack, Suzumo did not use those 3 trump cards the entire time, nor did he waste any spirit energy. It was all for this moment. However, those 3 trump cards were only used to confuse and obstruct the alpha for a moment. Even if it was only for a split second, Suzumo's true killing move was on his right hand. Swash! Suzumo used his right hand as a saber and stabbed forward. All 4 trump cards were used. The first to descend were Anaconda Eclipse and Thunderclap Kill. A deafening roar burst forth with the power of thunder, as though it wanted to topple the stars and shatter the world. The surrounding blue wolves revealed a trace of pain and subconsciously retreated. However, the alpha that was facing Thunderclap Kill did not pause in its actions at all. Suddenly, a scarlet air current burst forth from the alpha's chest and coiled around him. Accompanied by the sound of his bloodline circulating, the alpha's aura rose by a level. The might of core formation descended and demonic chi permeated the air in a soul-stirring manner. The alpha reached out with its claws and grabbed forward, shattering the golden palm seal that was descending from midair with ease. The Wolf King did not stop there and bit towards Suzumo's neck with a ferocious expression. Right then, Suzumo's right hand slashed over. The moment the Wolf King bit Suzumo's neck, Suzumo's right hand poked the Wolf King's body. Suzumo's bodies, Suzumo chi. Eclipse, S's was, wolf, S's was, however, the alpha was suspicious and cunning by nature and would definitely not take risks. Against Suzumo's right hand, the alpha stopped in its tracks and swiped forward with its claws. The moment it made contact with Suzumo's chest, it retreated in a flash. Bang! As though he was struck by lightning, Suzumo fell backward uncontrollably with a pale face. The attack missed. The alpha was too fast and cautious. Not only did it avoid Suzumo's right hand, it even seized the opportunity to severely injure the latter. Initially, it wanted to rip apart Suzumo's stomach, but it was blocked by the Mystic Gold Silk Armor. The Mystic Gold Silk Armor was a broken Khanate spirit weapon after all. Even though it could defend against the sharpness of the wolf's claws, it could not defend against the power contained within. That gentle swipe without using its full strength had already caused a few bones in Suzumo's chest to break. Even his organs were shaken violently and cracks appeared on the surface. Suzumo coughed out fresh blood and sighed internally as he looked at the alpha that was closing in on him. There's no more chance. Even when the alpha was caught off guard, he did not succeed. But now, Suzumo was severely injured and had lost his combat strength. There was no longer any chance for him to kill the alpha. If I were to attain greater mastery of the organ's refinement section, my overall strength would rise significantly. Be it in terms of strength or reaction speed, there would be an increase. If I were to use just now, I might have a chance to kill him. It's just a pity. It was not that the plan did not work, but the difference in strength between the two parties was too great. The strength of a spirit demon that had formed a core was far beyond Suzumo's imagination. On the other side, the spirit monkey was covered in injuries and fell to the ground. Its long rod was tossed aside and it was panting. It was exhausted as well. The alpha walked towards the man and monkey slowly, as though it was the ruler of the world. It stared at Suzumo's right hand with a hint of scrutiny, doubt and curiosity. What was it that could cause it to feel fear? Was it a hallucination? After the alpha decided to bite Suzumo to death, it would take a look at what this human's right hand was. Howl, howl. The surrounding wolves howled into the skies with excited expressions, waiting for the final kill. The alpha strode over and stuck its massive head in front of Suzumo. A nauseating stench came out of its mouth and nose, and the sticky saliva in its mouth dripped onto Suzumo's body. Suzumo no longer had the strength to resist and merely glared at the alpha coldly. The alpha's face was filled with disdain as it opened its massive mouth and bared its fangs. Just as it was about to bite down, its expression changed starkly and the ferocity in its eyes turned into fear. Su Zimo was slightly stunned. Before he had time to react, he felt a tyrannical wave of energy coming out from the cave behind him, suddenly bursting out. For a moment, Su Zimo had an illusion. The entire world seemed to have come to a standstill. The world was filled with a murderous aura and the atmosphere was stifling. It was so silent that one could even hear a pin drop. It was as though all living beings were choked by an invisible force and could not make a sound. The energy fluctuation was extremely unfamiliar, and Su Zimo had never seen it before. It did not seem like a spirit art, but it was extremely terrifying. Poof! There was a crisp sound. Right in front of countless gazes, the Wolf King's head that was inches away from Su Zimo suddenly exploded as though it was struck by a strange force. A blood mist spread and splattered onto Su Zimo's body. Su Zimo's body stiffened as he looked at the scene in disbelief. He could barely smell the incomparably smelly blood on his body. The spirit monkey was also stunned and froze on the spot. The powerful Jindan Realm Wolf King was able to suppress Su Zimo completely. However, it was killed instantly by this energy fluctuation without any resistance. How hard was the head of the Jindan Realm Wolf King? Even if Su Zimo wielded the cold moon saber and slashed with all his might, he would not be able to leave a single mark on its head. But now, such a hard head had exploded right in front of Su Zimo's eyes. If he had not seen it with his own eyes, Su Zimo would not have been able to imagine it. The impact of this scene on him was way too great. It was only when the headless corpse of the Alpha fell heavily in front of Su Zimo that he snapped out of his stupor and heaved a long sigh of relief. After a short period of silence, the remaining thousands of wolves whimpered, drooped their tails, and fled into the distance without looking back. In the blink of an eye, they disappeared completely, leaving behind only wolf corpses and bloodstains. Chapter 201. Su Zimo turned back and looked at the dark cave behind him. He was bewildered. After being stunned for a moment, Su Zimo instinctively looked at the spirit monkey. After all, he had not been back for 2 years. The spirit monkey should know best what was in this cave. Unexpectedly, when he saw Su Zimo's gaze, the spirit monkey shook his head with a puzzled look. Down the cold lake into the cave. At this moment, Su Zimo suddenly heard an unfamiliar voice. It was extremely weak and intermittent. This voice appeared extremely abruptly. It was as if it rang in Su Zimo's mind out of thin air. There was someone in the cave? Right under the cold lake? What kind of means was this? Su Zimo calmed himself down and took a look at the spirit monkey. The spirit monkey did not sense anything. There was nothing unusual. This meant that he was the only one who heard this voice. Su Zimo had no idea what the other party's identity was, and what his motive was. He could not help but feel perturbed. But on second thought, if not for this person, he would have died just now under the wolf's kiss. In the worst-case scenario, he would just die again. Su Zimo pondered for a moment and did not tell the spirit monkey about this. The spirit monkey did not hear the voice of the mysterious person. There was only one possibility. The mysterious person did not want the spirit monkey to hear it. Moreover, it was unknown whether it would be a blessing or a curse under the cold lake. Su Zimo did not want the spirit monkey to take the risk. Monkey, wait here. I will go in and take a look. Su Zimo endured the excruciating pain and struggled to stand up. Ooh! The spirit monkey barked a few times. It supported Su Zimo with one hand and gestured with the other, indicating that it wanted to go in together. Wait for me outside. I will be back soon. Don't worry. Su Zimo added and walked slowly towards the cave. After entering the cave, a pungent yet familiar smell hit him. Su Zimo frowned. It was that damn monkey's feces again. There were not many changes in the cave. Su Zimo looked around and walked directly towards the cold lake. Layers of white mist floated on the surface of the water. It was bone-chilling. Su Zimo didn't hesitate. He took a deep breath and jumped in. Because he was wearing the mystic gold silk armor, Su Zimo sank very quickly. 2 years ago, he had just cultivated to the tendons changing section. Halfway through, the blood in his body had already shown signs of freezing. But now, as he continued to descend, Su Zimo's bloodline surged like a tidal wave, endlessly multiplying and surging, resisting the endless cold qi. In the blink of an eye, Su Zimo stepped on solid ground and arrived at the bottom of the cold pond. There was a huge rock in front of him and he could finally make out the words on it. Extreme Fire Dao Palace. Su Zimo was shocked and choked on a mouthful of cold water. His abdomen wriggled, and in an instant a chill erupted. Su Zimo's body trembled slightly. One must know that the words Dao Palace were not something that anyone could use. Jindan Realm was perfected being, Nascent Soul Realm was perfected Lord, and above Nascent Soul was Void Reversion. Only Void Reversions could be called Dao beings. There was a high chance that the owner of this Dao Palace was a Void Reversion. Void Reversion Dao beings were way too far away from Su Zimo. It was said that even at Misty Peak, the Patriarch's cultivation was only at Nascent Soul Realm and had yet to reach Void Reversion. Calming himself down, Su Zimo took a few steps forward and closed in. There was a stone door beneath the huge rock. Hesitating for a moment, Su Zimo exerted strength with both arms and pushed the stone door. Crack! 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 The two stone doors opened from the middle and an ancient aura of decay gushed over. Gritting his teeth, Su Zimo stepped into the Dao Palace. As though it was blocked by an invisible resistance, the water of the cold pond was blocked outside and the stone door closed slowly. After entering the Dao Palace, Su Zimo opened his mouth slightly and froze on the spot. Unexpectedly, the space of the Dao Palace was surprisingly small and could be said to be unobstructed. In fact, it could not even compare to Su Zimo's cave abode at Misty Peak. There were not many decorations in the Dao Palace. Facing Su Zimo was a stone bed with a man lying on it. He wore scarlet robes with the emblem of a gigantic tripod embroidered on his sleeves. Su Zimo had never seen that emblem before. The man revealed his side profile and looked to be in his middle age. His face was black with a sinister green tinge. The scarlet-robed man laid there stiffly. Coupled with his greenish-black face, he looked like a corpse that had been laid out for many years. It was terrifying. You don't have to be afraid. I don't have much life left and won't hurt you. Even though the scarlet-robed man's lips did not move, Su Zimo's mind suddenly rang out with that voice. I'm using my spirit consciousness to communicate with you. Just now, the death of that wolf was also due to the power of my spirit consciousness. Spirit consciousness. It was said that perfected being Jindan was only able to open up his spirit consciousness and possess spirit consciousness after advancing to the nascent soul realm. Spirit consciousness was another type of power that was much stronger and more terrifying than one's vision. It was all-pervasive and could detect every single hidden corner. Against the power of spirit consciousness, the wolf that had formed a core was destroyed instantly and was as insignificant as an ant. Su Zimo asked, "How should I address you, Senior?" "Dao Lord." "Extreme Fire." The voice that came from the spirit consciousness was extremely weak. However, when it landed in Su Zimo's mind, it exploded like thunder. "Dao Lord." In the cultivation world, every single cultivation realm corresponded to a unique title. It was a symbol of identity, status and strength and could not be used carelessly. Su Zimo only knew that void reversions could be referred to as Dao beings. However, he had never heard of the corresponding cultivation realm of a Dao Lord. Logically speaking, a Dao Lord's cultivation realm must be above the void reversion realm. "Thank you for saving me, Senior Extreme Fire. Is there anything I can help you with?" After a long silence, Su Zimo asked. At that moment, Su Zimo did not have any confidence either. According to what the Hakke Dojin said, he did not have much life left. What could a foundation establishment cultivator like Su Zimo be of help? 5,000 years ago, I barged into a ruin. In a moment of carelessness, I was injured by a life form in the ruin and was poisoned. Thereafter, I crushed a major transference talisman to escape death and was teleported here. The Hakke Dojin's voice sounded intermittently and incoherent. However, Su Zimo was completely dumbfounded. 5,000 years ago, perfected being Jindan's lifespan was only 500 years. The middle-aged man in front of him was actually a person from 5,000 years ago, and he was still alive. What was even more frightening was that there was a life form in that unknown ruin that could injure the Hakke Dojin. What sort of poison was it that even a Dao Lord could not withstand? As for the major transference talisman at the end, Su Zimo had never heard of it before. After creating This place, the poison has already spread throughout my body and I can't leave. If my essence spirit leaves my body, it will be infected by the poison and I won't be able to live for more than an hour. Helpless, I can only rely on my spirit consciousness to resist the corrosion of the poison. 5,000 years. I can't hold on any longer. There was a hint of regret, indignance and relief in the Hakurodojin's voice. Suzimo looked at the Hakurodojin with shock in his eyes and a torrential wave in his heart. In that cramped Dao residence where he could not see the sun and almost lost his freedom, the Hakurodojin fought against the poison in his body alone for 5,000 years. How strong was his willpower? Chapter 202. If one were to say that this Hakurodojin was way too strong, the poison in his body would be even more terrifying. That was because even after 5,000 years, the Hakurodojin had still lost. If the poison in the Hakurodojin's body was terrifying enough, the thought of the ruin he had barged into was enough to send chills down one's spine. 2 years ago I met you. The Hakurodojin said, however, you weren't a cultivator back then. To think that you would be a foundation establishment cultivator 2 years later. Someone has defied the heavens and changed your fate for you. Such methods are truly admirable. Suzimo was silent. If not for Daiyu, he wouldn't have been able to reach where he was today. Even though this Hakurodojin was powerful, he was subdued by Daiyu as well. My treasures are all in my storage bag. You don't have spirit consciousness and can't open them. Furthermore, your cultivation realm is too low, and you won't be able to use them. You can keep my storage bag and open it when you're at void reversion in the future. Suzimo finally realized that the reason why the Hakurodojin called him down was to make arrangements for his death. I brought this black stone out from the ruin and can't put it in my storage bag. I don't know what use it has either. Take it with you. Beside the Hakurodojin's pillow was his storage bag and a black stone the size of a goose egg. The black stone was smooth and shone with a sparkling light. Suzimo stared at the black stone and felt as though his gaze was being pulled in by it. Instinctively, Suzimo picked up the black stone. The moment Suzimo's fingers touched the black stone, it suddenly disappeared. It was as though it had entered his body through his palm. All of a sudden, Suzimo felt a sharp pain in his head that was unbearable and almost fainted. Suzimo did not realize that right at this moment, his right eye had turned completely black. His eyes were as black as ink without the slightest white. In the blink of an eye, Suzimo's right eye returned to normal as the stabbing pain gradually weakened. At the same time, a secret technique appeared in Suzimo's mind. To be precise, it was a sword formation technique, the candlelight sword formation. Suzimo only skimmed through the sword formation once, and he couldn't help but be secretly shocked. Although he had yet to cultivate or comprehend it, Suzimo speculated that the power of the candlelight sword formation was enough to crush the Ryoha sword formation. The candlelight sword formation was divided into 9 stages. A grade 1 candlelight sword formation required a total of 9 flying swords. If it was a grade 2 candlelight sword formation, it would require 18 flying swords and so on. If he were to truly cultivate the candlelight sword formation to grade 9, he would require 81 flying swords to activate it successfully. Suzimo set aside the candlelight sword formation for the time being and lowered his head to check his entire body. When the black stone disappeared, Suzimo had an illusion that the stone had drilled into his body. However, after searching for a while, he found nothing. There's also a demon beast egg at the foot of the bed. I brought it out from the ruin as well. Take it away and nurture it well. Who knows, it might give birth to an extraordinary spirit beast. Suzimo took 2 steps back and saw an oval-shaped egg that was about the size of a fist beneath the stone bed. If one didn't pay attention, it would be easy to overlook it and think that it was just an ordinary stone. But now, Suzimo focused his gaze and was shocked to discover that there were extremely complicated and mysterious patterns on the surface of the demon beast egg. Suzimo did not head forward to touch the demon beast egg. Everything in the ruin was a little strange and Suzimo was worried that the egg would drill into his body if he touched it. You're a sword formation master, right? Suddenly, the Hakurodojin asked, his voice even weaker than before and almost inaudible. Yes. Suzimo nodded. Previously, when he was fighting against the wolf pack outside, he had summoned the 8 tribulation sword formation. Hakurodojin must have seen it. I don't know about sword formations, But I know that the most important thing for a sword formation master is their flying swords. There are many of them and they have to be the same in terms of weight and grade. It's best if they're identical. Su Zimo nodded. That's right. I'm a weapon refinement master as well. The flying swords I use are all refined by myself. Oh. Suddenly, there was a hint of joy in the Hakuya Dojin's tone. What grade spirit weapons can you refine? I can only refine inferior grade spirit weapons, Su Zimo replied honestly. The Hakuya Dojin said, actually, I'm from one of the 4 unorthodox groups, 100 Refinement Sect. In Tianhuang mainland, 100 Refinement Sect reigns supreme in the art of weapon refinement. It's a pity that you're not a disciple of my sect, and I can't impart to you many of our secret weapon refinement techniques. Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat. He had once unintentionally heard Demonist Ji mention that there were 4 unorthodox groups among the top factions of Tianhuang mainland. They were on par with the 7 fiend sections. However, the Hakuya Dojin continued, I can refine a weapon in front of you. Watch the entire process carefully. How much you can comprehend will depend on your capabilities. 100 Refinement Sect reigns supreme in the art of weapon refinement. Those words were enough to prove how strong 100 Refinement Sect was in terms of weapon refinement. Furthermore, the person before him was a Tao Lord of 100 Refinement Sect. It was a rare opportunity. Suddenly, a figure flew out from Hakuya Dojin's glabella. It was also wearing scarlet robes and was almost a miniature Hakuya Dojin. Its appearance and features were identical. This is my essence spirit. It's about to dissipate. Hakuya Dojin said and waved his hand gently. A gigantic tripod and many materials flew out from the storage bag at the bedside. Swoosh! Raging flames rose from beneath the tripod. Warming the tripod, selecting materials, smelting, molding, the steps were roughly the same. However, the details and techniques displayed during weapon refinement were far from the same. In Su Zimo's eyes, every single step of Hakuya Dojin's weapon refinement was smooth like flowing water. It was as though he was not refining a spirit weapon, but creating an unparalleled treasure. Su Zimo was already an elementary weapon refinement master. However, at that moment, he realized that his weapon refinement standards were like trash compared to true experts. After molding, it was tempering. It was also Su Zimo's weakest link. Su Zimo widened his eyes and looked at Hakuya Dojin's technique. Hakuya Dojin controlled his 10 fingers with incomparable agility and tapped on the sword bit by bit. The moment his fingertips landed, it was as though an exquisite hammer was condensed on his fingertips. Cling! Clang! 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 His 10 fingers tapped on the sword rhythmically and there was a crisp sound. The intervals between the sounds were exactly the same. This is one of the secret skills of 100 Refinement Sect. 1000 Tempered Finger. Hakuya Dojin's voice sounded. I can't tell you the secret behind it. Watch more, think more and practice more. You'll definitely gain something. Before long, the tempering was over and spirit gathering began. Almost instantly, the first spirit pattern appeared on the sword. Su Zimo was dumbfounded. Wasn't the speed of spirit gathering way too fast? This is another secret skill of 100 Refinement Sect, the 100 Refinement Spirit Gathering Technique. This secret skill requires an incantation and mental cultivation technique. You won't be able to comprehend anything just by observing. Before he finished his sentence, a second spirit pattern appeared. Immediately after, a third. A fourth. Chapter 203. In just a few breaths, 4 spirit patterns had already been condensed on the flying sword. 4 spirit patterns were at supreme grade. Another step further and it would be perfect. Spirit gathering was the most difficult step in weapon refinement. However, it was executed so easily by Hakuya Dojin. One could be called an advanced weapon refinement master if they could refine superior grade spirit weapons. Above advanced weapon refinement masters were the titles of weapon refinement grandmasters and weapon refinement grandmasters. What was the title of this Hakuya Dojin before him? In order to let Su Zimo see his weapon refinement technique clearly, Hakuya Dojin removed the weapon tripod when he was tempering and spirit gathering. After Hakuya Dojin condensed 4 spirit patterns, he did not stop at all and wanted to condense a 5th. Right then Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat and a sense of danger flashed. The sense of danger came from the scarlet sword. It was very familiar. It was the precursor to a failure of spirit gathering. Don't! Seeing that Hakyodojin had no intention of stopping, Suzimo shouted instinctively. Hakyodojin paused and glanced at Suzimo, murmuring softly, "That's right. Even if you're given a perfect spirit weapon, you won't be able to control it given your cultivation realm." Given Suzimo's spirit energy, even if he could control a perfect spirit weapon, he would not be able to last long. The consumption of spirit energy for all 5 spirit patterns to be activated was way too great. Suzimo heaved a sigh of relief and lamented internally. Although 100 Refinement Sex spirit gathering technique is indeed powerful, the success rate isn't 100%. Although my spirit gathering technique is slower, it's safer. In other words, if Suzimo was able to reach the limits of material selection, smelting, molding, and tempering, he would be able to refine a perfect spirit weapon with a 100% chance of success. If news of this were to spread in the cultivation world, Suzimo would become the most sought-after weapon refinement master. There was no one else. "This supreme-grade flying sword is for you. Take it." Whoosh! A sword light flashed and stabbed into the ground in front of Suzimo. Sigh, after 5,000 years, it's still futile. Hakyodojin's primordial spirit was dyed with a tinge of green, and it was getting darker and darker. Suzimo raised his eyebrows slightly and tried to suppress the shock in his heart. Hakyodojin's primordial spirit flew out from between his eyebrows. In this short period of contact with his physical body, it was infected with this poison. From this one could see how strong the poison was. Inside the body of the ash wolf is an inner core. For you it would be a great tonic. Don't forget to take it out. Suzimo's eyes lit up. In immortal cultivation, when a cultivator stepped into the Tao of alchemy, they would condense a dazzling Jin Dan in their dantian. According to the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the great wilderness, after a demon formed a core, an inner core would be formed in their body. The inner core was similar to the Jin Dan in that it was the essence of a cultivator's cultivation. The only difference was that the Jin Dan was formed by the qualitative change of spirit energy, whereas the inner core was formed by the essence chi of the 5 organs. According to the organs refinement section, the essence chi of the 5 organs was the 5 types of essence chi produced after organs refinement. When it was released in the body, it would nourish the skin, flesh, tendons, bones, and marrow, causing the body to undergo a complete transformation. Be it in terms of strength or speed, there would be an obvious increase. When the body reached its limits under the nourishment of the essence chi of the 5 organs, it would enter the next realm, orifice clearing. Orifice clearing did not bring about a huge increase in strength or speed. However, it brought about an obvious change in the overall strength of a shouyao. The so-called orifice clearing was to make use of the essence chi of the 5 organs to clear the 7 orifices of the mouth, eyes, ears, and nose. Once the 7 orifices were cleared, the 5 senses of a shouyao would be enhanced tremendously. Their vision, hearing, and sense of smell would become extremely sharp. This was just a change on the surface. There would be a qualitative change within a shouyao as well. The 5 organs, skin, flesh, tendons, marrow, and 5 senses would form a close connection with each other, forming a mini-cycle within the body. Once orifice clearing reached greater mastery, the body would be both tough and soft, becoming one with a great increase in coordination. The inner core would be formed when the 5 chi converged into one. The inner core was the condensation of the 5 organs, and was the essence of the Ash Wolf King's cultivation. For Suzimo, it was way too important. After consuming the inner core, there was a high chance that Suzimo would take a crucial step forward in the organs refinement section. The path of cultivation is long and arduous. A single misstep can lead to death. How sad, how lamentable. Hakyodojin's essence spirit floated down slowly and laid on the ground. His brows were filled with endless vicissitudes as he murmured and closed his eyes gradually. At this moment, Suzimo felt sorrowful as though he was experiencing the same thing. This Hakyodojin before him was countless times stronger than him. However, he still ended up in this state. How far could he go in the future? Furthermore, the path he had to take was even more arduous and bumpy. Thank you for saving my life. Imparting the Tao and bestowing treasures, Senior. Suzimo bowed deeply in the direction of Hakyodojin's corpse. Hakyodojin's essence spirit had already turned greenish-black and his vitality was faintly discernible. It was clear that he could no longer live. Heis! Suzimo sighed gently and came to the side of the stone bed, prepared to put away the storage bag left behind by Hakuadojin. Because Hakuadojin had left a spirit consciousness restriction on the storage bag, Suzimo could not open it given his current cultivation. Even so, it was worth looking forward to. As a Tao Lord of the 100 Refinement Gate, one of the 4 unorthodox groups, how many treasures would he have in his storage bag? Keeping the storage bag, Suzimo placed the supreme grade flying sword on the ground into his storage bag. Suzimo exclaimed softly. The moment he closed the storage bag, he could vaguely sense that there was something amiss with the Buddha bead the size of a longan in the storage bag. Suzimo took out the Buddha bead. The moment he picked up the Buddha bead, Suzimo frowned and looked even more puzzled. The Buddha bead was warm to the touch. Strange, ever since he picked up the Buddha bead from the stone coffin, it had not undergone any changes. This was the first time. Suzimo surveyed his surroundings in deep thought. If he was not wrong, there might be something in this cave abode that could cause the Buddha bead to sense something. Suzimo held the Buddha bead in his palm and walked around the cave abode. After taking a few steps, Suzimo suddenly stopped and bent down, looking at Hakuadojin's essence spirit that was lying on the ground not far away. He frowned in silence. A moment later, Suzimo tried to straighten his arm and bring the Buddha bead near Hakuadojin's essence spirit. Shoo! A streak of light. Right in front of Suzimo, Hakuadojin's essence spirit was suddenly sucked away by the Buddha bead and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Suzimo's expression changed and he hurriedly threw the Buddha bead on the ground. Hakuadojin's essence spirit was also poisoned. Now that it was sucked into the Buddha bead would not be spared either. After observing for a long time, Suzimo was shocked to discover that there were no changes to the Buddha bead. Suzimo did not dare to be careless. He grabbed a stone from the ground and touched the Buddha bead with it. There were no changes to the stone either. This meant that the Buddha bead was not tainted with the terrifying poison. Suzimo heaved a sigh of relief. He could not be blamed for being so cautious. The poison was truly way too powerful. Even a powerful cultivator like Hakuadojin ended up in such a state after 5,000 years. Suzimo had no choice but to be careful. Suzimo picked up the Buddha bead and studied it for a while before putting it back into his storage bag. Chapter 204. There was nothing left in the cave abode that could be taken away. Suzimo's gaze finally landed on the demon beast egg. Actually, Suzimo did not have much hope for the demon beast egg. Since this demonic beast egg was brought out from a relic from 5,000 years ago, then why would it be so valuable? This meant that the demon beast egg was far more than 5,000 years old. Even a demon beast might not be able to live for that long, let alone a demon beast egg. However, on second thought, Suzimo realized that the items in the ruin were not ordinary. The black stone that might have fused with his body, the candlelight sword formation recorded within, and the poison that killed even a Tao Lord. At that thought, Suzimo arrived before the demon beast egg and scrutinized it. All of a sudden, Suzimo's heart skipped a beat. Since the demon beast egg was brought out by Hakuadojin from the ruin and came into contact with Hakuadojin's poison body, why was it not tainted with any poison? Even Hakuadojin's essence spirit was not spared, but the demon beast egg was fine? Immune to poison? After pondering for a moment, Suzimo picked up the demon beast egg and tried to place it in his storage bag. He could not put it in. Suzimo's eyes lit up in joy. One had to know that inanimate objects such as weapons, pills, and the like could all be placed in a storage bag. However, there was no way to store living beings in storage bags. But now, the fact that the demon beast egg could not be placed in his storage bag proved that there were signs of life within the demon beast egg. It was still alive. Suzimo's mind gradually became active. It might not be a bad thing if he could nurture a spirit beast. Furthermore, this spirit beast came from an unknown ruin and might be immune to poison. Demon beast eggs were extremely rare, and only some of the top factions of Tianhuang mainland would have them. They were all prepared for the top paragons of their sections. The more powerful the bloodline, the more precious the demonic beast egg would be, and the harder it would be to obtain it. This was because the eggs of such demonic beasts would definitely be guarded day and night by extremely powerful pure-blooded ferocious beasts. Moreover, they would be located in the deepest part of the forest and mountain range. In order to obtain such a monster egg, The sect's top experts would have to step forward and fight against a pure-blooded descendant, or a pure-blooded ferocious beast. Moreover, they might not necessarily succeed and might even fall into a dangerous situation. Spirit beasts bred from demonic beast eggs were extremely loyal, and would never betray their masters. Misty Peak was one of the 5 great sects of the Great Zhou dynasty. Although they didn't have demon beast eggs, they had instructions on how to breed them. First, it was dripping blood. It wasn't something like a drop of blood, and it wasn't that miraculous. The principle was very simple. The purpose of dripping his own blood was to erase the mother's aura from the demonic beast egg and replace it with his own blood. In this way, during the breeding process and at the moment of birth, the most familiar scent would be the scent of the dripping blood human. Naturally, the 2 parties would be the closest. After pondering for a moment, Su Zimo took out the supreme-grade flying sword refined by Hakua Dojin and injected spirit chi into it. For spirit patterns shone at the same time, emitting a chilling aura that was sharp and menacing. Given Su Zimo's current physique, if he didn't activate the spirit patterns, it wouldn't be able to pierce his skin. The tip of the sword sliced across his left palm and a bloody wound appeared. Su Zimo hurriedly placed his left hand on the demonic beast egg and started wiping it. The moment he wiped the demonic beast egg, Su Zimo suddenly felt his palm tighten, as though something had bitten him. Su Zimo's expression changed. Immediately after, a tremendous suction force burst forth from the demonic beast egg. Su Zimo's bloodline flowed uncontrollably from the wound on his left palm and surged into the demonic beast egg. This feeling was as if a demonic beast egg was hungry and thirsty, swallowing his blood in large mouthfuls. Frowning, Su Zimo shook his hand forcefully a few times, wanting to shake off the demonic beast egg. However, the demonic beast egg seemed to be stuck to his palm, and he could not shake it off no matter what. All of a sudden, the mysterious and complicated patterns on the demonic beast egg suddenly shone with a blinding light. Against the shade of blood, it was extremely sinister. The speed at which the demonic beast egg devoured the bloodline increased exponentially. It was even faster than he had imagined. Pust! Su Zimo gasped and felt dizzy. At this rate, it wouldn't be long before he was sucked dry by the demonic beast egg. Putting away his flying sword, Su Zimo grabbed the demonic beast egg with his right hand and tried to tear it apart. However, no matter how he tore, the demonic beast egg stuck firmly to his palm and did not budge at all. Furthermore, it was still devouring his bloodline without any signs of stopping. Damn it! Indeed, I can't touch anything in this ruin. Su Zimo's face was pale as he cursed in his heart. There were 2 choices in front of him. He could either chop off his left hand or be sucked dry. Suddenly, a thought flashed in Su Zimo's mind. He turned and dashed out of the cave abode. Taking advantage of the fact that the bloodline in his body had not been sucked dry and there was still energy left, Su Zimo swam desperately towards the cold lake. In the blink of an eye, he leaped onto the cold lake. Su Zimo staggered. His blood and chi were weak and he nearly fell. Oh! When the spirit monkey saw Su Zimo dashing out in a hurry, it was stunned. It had only been a while since they last met. Su Zimo's flesh and blood had withered and he had lost a lot of weight. In his left palm there was an egg that was shining with blood. The spirit monkey was puzzled. It was about to step forward when Su Zimo suddenly shouted, "Don't come over." The spirit monkey hurriedly stopped in its tracks. It widened its eyes and looked at Su Zimo. Su Zimo came to the previous battlefield. Looking at the scattered corpses of the wolves, he took a deep breath and chanted a few cryptic and eerie sutras. A bloody glow flashed in his eyes. Blood-devouring technique. This was a secret technique in the blood refinement fiend sutra. Su Zimo opened his mouth slightly. The flesh and blood of the wolves in front of him dissipated gradually, turning into a pool of blood that flowed rapidly into his mouth. On one side, the demonic beast egg was constantly devouring Su Zimo's blood. On the other side, Su Zimo was constantly devouring the blood of the wolves' corpses. Finally, he managed to stay alive. As time passed, the number of wolves' corpses decreased. Pure white wolf skeletons appeared on the ground one after another. After an unknown period of time, just as Su Zimo could not hold on any longer, the demonic beast egg fell from his palm with a thud. It rolled a few rounds on the ground and remained motionless. The bloody glow on the demonic beast egg gradually dissipated and returned to its original state. At first glance it looked like a rock the size of a fist. Suzimo fell and sat on the ground. He looked at the demonic beast egg with lingering fear and heaved a long sigh. If he had not experienced it personally, Suzimo could not imagine how a small demonic beast egg could devour so much blood in his body. Oh! The spirit monkey came up and asked a few questions. Suzimo forced out a smile and said, "I'm fine. I was almost cheated by an egg." Chapter 205. Looking at the demon beast egg not far away, Suzimo felt as though he had just survived a calamity. If not for the fact that he had cultivated 2 top-notch marrow-cleansing blood-swapping techniques and the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra, he would have been sucked to death by this demon beast egg instantly. Egg! The spirit monkey approached the demon beast egg. Blinking its eyes, it grabbed it and sized it up curiously. Suzimo surveyed his surroundings. His eyes lit up when his gaze landed on a spot. Under the corpse of the Wolf King, there was a round core the size of a fist. It was light red in color. A demon beast's inner core. It was because the Ash Wolf King had such a round object that he could unleash such terrifying power with a casual strike. It even shattered Suzimo's 6 inferior grade flying swords. The colors of the inner core were different and they were related to the type of demon beast. Some demon beasts that lived in the water, such as the water crocodile and ancient spirit fish, would condense inner cores that were of the water attribute and were mostly blue in color. Some demon beasts that were of the vegetation type, such as the 3-leaved swordgrass and purple bloodvine, would condense inner cores that were of the wood attribute and were mostly green in color. Inner cores were also divided into grades. No matter what color it was, the purer the color, the higher the grade. For example, this light red wolf's inner core could only be considered as a middle-grade inner core. A dark red inner core was considered as a high-grade inner core. A dark red inner core was considered as a supreme-grade inner core. If one could condense an inner core that was as red as blood, it would be a perfect inner core. Even ancient ferocious beasts with pure bloodlines might not be able to condense a perfect inner core, let alone ordinary spirit beasts and ancient remnant beasts. The grade did not refer to the impurities in the inner core. Instead, it referred to the purity of the inner core and the amount of energy it contained. At the same early stage inner core realm, even 10 inferior grade inner core spirit demons might not be a match for a middle grade inner core spirit demon. The Wolf King was just an ordinary spirit beast. It was already considered good that it could condense a middle grade inner core. Suzimo picked up the Wolf King's inner core and beckoned to the spirit monkey before walking towards the cave. The sky was already dark and night was about to fall. Although the strength of the man and monkey was no longer the same as before, it was still very dangerous to stay outside the Tsonglang mountain range. Back in the cave, Suzimo split the inner core into 2 and handed half to the spirit monkey. He smiled and said, "Monkey, this is the inner core of the Wolf King. It's a great tonic. Take it and cultivate." The spirit monkey did not decline. It received half of the alpha wolf's inner core and swallowed it without even chewing. After a slight pause, the spirit monkey's eyes widened and its expression changed drastically. The spirit monkey sat up in a flurry and started cultivating. It continuously refined the energy in the inner core, and its aura gradually became heavier. Suzimo placed the other half of the Wolf King's core into his mouth and chewed slowly. The Wolf King's inner core was not hard, and was a little soft. After chewing it and swallowing it into his stomach, he could clearly feel a huge surge of energy bursting forth. This power carried a trace of heat as it flowed through his limbs and bones, surging towards his internal organs. In this cave, Suzimo had almost exploded from the energy of the scarlet flame fruit. Now Suzimo did not dare to be careless. He hurriedly circulated the Organs Refinement Sutra, and breathed in and out to refine the energy of the inner core that was rampaging in his body. Time passed bit by bit. A man and a monkey sat in the cave with their eyes closed. Fog rose from their bodies and lingered around them. To be fair, if not for this alpha wolf's inner core, it would be impossible for Suzimo to enter the organs refinement section without a few years of exploration and research. But now, with the help of the alpha wolf's inner core, Suzimo was gradually reaching the threshold of the organs refinement section. The inner core was, in fact, the fusion of the blood and the 5 internal organs. Blood and qi combined to form a core. Refining the inner core was equivalent to refining the 5 internal organs' qi. It would drive the circulation of the organ's refinement section, and Su Zimo gradually found the feeling of refining his organs. Refining the 5 internal organs would produce the essence of the 5 internal organs. The 5 internal organs corresponded to the skin, flesh, tendons, bones, and marrow. Organs refinement not only increased the strength of the 5 internal organs, it was also a type of baptism and refinement of the entire body. It was a summary of the first few sections of the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the great wilderness. A night had passed and Su Zimo showed no signs of stopping his cultivation. Unknowingly, the injuries from the battle with the alpha wolf had already healed silently. Under the nourishment and refinement of the 5 internal organs qi, the hidden injuries in his body were also healed. When the sun rose, the spirit monkey's cultivation ended. The spirit monkey took a look at Su Zimo, who was still cultivating, and did not disturb him. Instead, it tiptoed to a corner. It looked around furtively and did not discover anyone else. Only then did the spirit monkey secretly take out the demonic beast egg and place it under its buttocks. The spirit monkey squatted on the demonic beast egg in a weird posture, as if it was relieving itself. However, there was no feces coming out. Furthermore, the spirit monkey did not sit properly. On the other side, Su Zimo's cultivation was still ongoing. The entire cave was filled with a crimson-red fog. One could not see clearly and the demonic aura was overwhelming. It was heart-palpitating. When the spirit beasts in the vicinity sensed this aura, they had already stayed far away. A figure was faintly discernible in the thick demonic aura. As it breathed, there was a flow of air from its mouth and nose. It was as if an ancient demon was breathing in and out. Another day and night passed. All of a sudden, 2 beams of demonic light flashed in the thick crimson fog. It was a pair of eyes. Su Zimo had ended his cultivation. Looking at the thick demonic aura around him, he suddenly opened his mouth and inhaled. The immense demonic aura gushed into Su Zimo's mouth continuously at a speed visible to the naked eye. In the blink of an eye, it disappeared completely. Su Zimo stood up, twisted his neck and stretched his limbs. A series of crackling sounds could be heard from his body, as if beans were being fried. His organs were trembling slightly. His blood was like a tidal wave and his bones and tendons were ringing. It had to be said that the alpha wolf's inner core was of great help to Su Zimo. In just a single day and 2 nights of cultivation, Su Zimo's physical strength had increased by an entire level under the nourishment of the qi of his 5 organs. However, at the same time, the hidden dangers of demonic cultivation appeared once more when he cultivated the organ's refinement section. Demonic qi. Demonic qi was produced in Su Zimo's body. When he cultivated the marrow cleansing section, Su Zimo's new bloodline was all demonic due to the marrow cleansing section. However, the demonic bloodline could change Su Zimo's physique and appearance. Thankfully, Su Zimo obtained the Void Thunder Manual in Thunderclap Valley by chance. Although it was incomplete, there was a section of the Thunderclap Marrow Cleansing Sutra in it that resolved the hidden dangers of demonic cultivation temporarily. But now the demonic qi produced in Su Zimo's body was from refining his organs. The Thunderclap Marrow Cleansing Sutra could only cleanse the marrow but not the organs. Of course, the situation this time round was slightly different from the previous times. The bloodline could allow Su Zimo to transform into a demon completely and change his appearance. However, the demonic qi could not change Su Zimo's physique and appearance. In other words, Su Zimo could continue cultivating the organ's refinement section and use the demonic qi to nourish his skin, flesh, tendons, marrow and strengthen his body. However, the hidden danger was that Su Zimo could not use the power of the demonic qi or others would definitely sense it. After all, demonic qi was way too different from the aura of humans. Any cultivator would be able to tell right away. Chapter 206. The power of organs refinement lay in the ability to release the power of blood qi, and not just the power of bloodline. The qi and the power of blood qi referred to demonic qi. But now, as a human, Su Zimo would be suppressed instantly if he were to release the power of blood qi and be filled with demonic qi. Of course, the power of bloodline alone was enough to deal with most foundation establishment cultivators. Once Su Zimo closed in, even perfected foundation establishment cultivators with multiple spirit meridians unlocked would be doomed. He had left the sect for quite some time this time round. Thankfully, his cultivation did not fall behind and he had gained a lot along the way. Suzimo intended to return to the sect and digest everything he had learned. On the one hand, he had to raise his cultivation realm as soon as possible to prepare for the sect competition 3 years later. On the other hand, he had to master the art of tempering as soon as possible so that he could refine middle grade or even superior grade flying swords. That way, he could start cultivating the candlelight sword formation. Suzimo was looking forward to the candlelight sword formation. A grade 2 candlelight sword formation required a total of 18 flying swords to be refined. Not to mention the power of the sword formation itself, just the 18 flying swords alone would be enough to make a foundation establishment cultivator suffer. Of course, there was also the matter of nurturing that demon beast egg. Since it came from a ruin, there was a high chance that it was immune to all poisons and even absorbed so much of his bloodline. Suzimo was curious as to what sort of spirit beast would be nurtured from that demon beast egg. If it was an ancient remnant beast, he would have struck gold. Remnant beasts were the descendants of pure-blooded ferocious beasts and ordinary demon beasts. Although they possessed the bloodline of ferocious beasts, they were extremely strong even if their bloodline was not pure. For example, Song Lang and Ling Hu could only be considered as the most ordinary demon beasts and could not be compared to ferocious beasts. As for Little Crane, Suzimo could vaguely sense that Little Crane's bloodline was not simple, and there was a high chance that it was an ancient remnant beast. Take the spirit monkey for example. Initially, it was a spirit beast with an ordinary bloodline, but Dai Yu seemed to have imparted a cultivation technique to it. Right now, the spirit monkey was no longer ordinary as well. Suzimo wondered if he should impart the Void Thunder manual to the Ling Hu when he returned. Although the Ling Hu seemed smart, it was actually extremely stupid. If it was still so weak, it would have a hard time surviving in the future. If this demon beast egg is able to nurture a pure-blooded ferocious beast. With that thought, Suzimo's heartbeat quickened. Pure-blooded ferocious beasts, Suzimo pure-blooded chi. Pure-blooded ferocious beasts, chi 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 condensation. Once Zimo chi chi Zimo to kill. And this was only a cub. Not only that, but the memories of the pure-blooded ferocious beasts also contained the memories and inheritances of their species. They were ancient, mysterious, and powerful. They were all cultivation methods and secret techniques that were most suitable for them to cultivate. Of course, the growth of pure-blooded ferocious beasts was extremely slow. Even if they did not cultivate, most of the pure-blooded ferocious beasts had lifespans of more than 10,000 years. If a cultivator were to nurture a pure-blooded ferocious beast, the cultivator would either exhaust his lifespan or die before the ferocious beast matured. At that thought, Suzimo instinctively searched for the demon beast egg. He looked around but could not find it. Strange. Suzimo furrowed his brows slightly. The cave was not big. He could see everything as far as his eyes could see. However, there were no traces of the demon beast egg. I clearly saw the damned monkey bring it in. Suzimo mumbled. His gaze landed on the spirit monkey and he exclaimed softly. The spirit monkey's posture was a little strange. It seemed like it was relieving itself. However, it had been squatting for too long. Furthermore, the spirit monkey hovered and did not sit down. There seemed to be something below its buttocks. Suzimo vaguely guessed something and could not help but roll his eyes. Damned monkey, aren't you tired? Upon hearing Suzimo's question, the spirit monkey shook its head. It looked at the entrance of the cave and pretended as if nothing had happened. Suzimo could not help but laugh. Stop pretending. Get up quickly. Don't tell me you're thinking of using your monkey buttocks to hatch the demon beast egg? Seeing that Suzimo had seen through it, the spirit monkey's face turned red. It stood up reluctantly. At the sight of this, Suzimo clicked his tongue in wonder. The spirit monkey was extremely thick-skinned and unruly. It was Suzimo's first time seeing it so bashful. Ow ow! After pausing for a while, the spirit monkey revealed its true colors. It bared its teeth and gestured while shouting at Suzimo. Although they had not met for 2 years, Suzimo still understood the spirit monkey's meaning immediately. The spirit monkey said that Suzimo did not know anything and should not interfere blindly. Suzimo scolded jokingly, I don't know. Do you? You did not give birth to this plaything. You have no blood relations with it at all. What's the point of hatching it? The spirit monkey was stunned by Suzimo's scolding. Oh! Immediately after, the spirit monkey looked at Suzimo in disdain. It squinted at him and barked a few times. The spirit monkey was saying, "What do you know? We are both from the demon clan. Our auras are similar and we can hatch it too." Suzimo covered his nose and said in disdain, "Your auras are not similar. Your entire body reeks of feces. Even if it hatches, I'm afraid it will be smelled to death by you." Suzimo had just said it casually. However, the spirit monkey became nervous. It hurriedly ran into the cold pool and washed its body thoroughly. Again and again Suzimo was dumbfounded. Before this they had fought many times because of this. Even if it was beaten black and blue by Suzimo, this monkey refused to compromise. It continued to wipe its feces daily. While it was disgusting to Suzimo, it also enjoyed it. Now this monkey actually went to take a bath because of a demonic beast egg? This was really... everything had its vanquisher. After a long time the spirit monkey jumped out of the cold pool. It ran to Suzimo and barked softly. "It's gone," Suzimo said. "A layer of your skin has almost been washed off. What else can there be?" "Ooh?" The spirit monkey gestured and asked where the demonic beast egg was. Suzimo yawned and pointed to his arms. He said, "This is my egg. Don't think about it." The spirit monkey pouted and snorted. It waved its hands, indicating that it did not care at all. However, the spirit monkey's eyes were sneakily staring at the demonic beast egg in Suzimo's arms. "Monkey, can I ask you something?" After pondering for a while, Suzimo suddenly said, "I will return to the sect later. Do you want to come with me?" Suzimo had a lingering fear at the thought of how the spirit monkey had met with danger this time. Although the spirit monkey had an unruly character and was not suitable to survive in the cultivation world, at least he could take care of it if it followed him. "Ow ow!" The spirit monkey barked. Suzimo smiled. "I know you want to be the king of the mountain. But what's the point of being the king of Tsonglang mountain range? You have to go out and be the king of other mountains." "Oh." The spirit monkey thought for a while and pointed to the demonic beast egg in Suzimo's arms. Barked a few times. Suzimo could not help but laugh. He said, "All right, follow me back. I will let you incubate this demonic beast egg." At the same time, Suzimo thought to himself, "Incubate it for you, not for you. Besides, this little fellow has swallowed so much of my blood. It can't possibly run away with others." Chapter 207. This day, a man and a monkey rushed over from outside Ethereal Peak, looking travel-worn. They passed through the fog formation and landed on the main peak of Ethereal Peak, attracting some attention. Junior brother Su is back. That monkey beside him is his spirit beast as well? Junior brother Su seems to have a special liking for spirit beasts. Including that monkey. He already has 2 spirit beasts. There are too many spirit beasts. If the power of the blood oath is distributed, it will definitely weaken. I think something will happen to Suzimo sooner or later. When the sect disciples saw the man and monkey, they had different gazes and discussed fervently. When Suzimo had just advanced to early-stage foundation establishment and entered the inner sect, there were inner sect disciples who came to provoke him. In the end, they were swept away by his thunderous methods. Thereafter, no one dared to disturb him until Suzimo left the sect and headed to the Sky Treasure auction house. Roar! Monkey felt extremely frustrated after being pointed at by so many strangers. It bared its fangs and roared at the cultivators not far away with a menacing expression. Demonic chi burst forth with a chilling killing intent. Monkey's fur stood on end and it looked like it had expanded in size with a frightening aura. If not for the fact that Suzimo was beside it, Monkey might have already charged forward and killed everyone given its unruly nature. Many cultivators were shocked. Monkey's body was stained with endless blood. If one wanted to survive in a place like Tsonglang Mountain Range, they would have to fight almost every day and experience a baptism of blood and death. Monkey's aura was much more violent and bloodthirsty than Ling Hu and Little Crane. Frowning slightly, Suzimo raised his palm and patted Monkey's shoulder gently, indicating that there was no need for it to be nervous. Along the way, Suzimo had repeatedly reminded Monkey to rein in its wild nature at Misty Peak, and not to reveal its ferocious side and fight to the death. Monkey harumphed and 2 streams of air came out of its nostrils as its fur gradually calmed down. Before long, the man and monkey disappeared from everyone's sight. Humph, that beast is really arrogant. It's only because junior brother Su is around. If not, I would have killed that beast personally. How dare it act so arrogantly in front of us? Many cultivators pretended to scold the man and monkey when they saw them disappear. The door of the cave abode was wide open and Ling Hu and Little Crane were sprawled inside, taking a nap. Little Crane was the first to sense it and opened its eyes. When Little Crane saw that it was Su Zimo, it cried out in joy. Ling Hu opened his eyes and lazily looked over. When he saw that it was Su Zimo, he immediately jumped up from the ground. Monkey did not have much of a reaction when he saw the tiger and crane. He merely curled his lips and a look of disdain flashed in his eyes. Following behind Su Zimo, Monkey swaggered in. This is Monkey. He was once my friend in Songlang Mountain Range. Su Zimo then pointed at Ling Hu and Little Crane saying, "This is Ling Hu and that is Little Crane. The three of you should stay together from now on. Don't fight." Chi. When he heard that, Monkey sneered and extended his finger, waving it in front of Ling Hu and Little Crane provocatively. Even though he did not say anything, Monkey's meaning was clear. The two of you can't fight and are no match for me. Ling Hu had just entered Foundation Establishment realm and was at the stage of being arrogant. Furthermore, to Ling Hu, he had been with Su Zimo the longest. If he were to be ridden on by a monkey that came later, how would he live his life in the future? There was no way Ling Hu could hold himself back when he saw Monkey's gesture. Roar! Ling Hu lowered his body and pretended to pounce on his prey. His eyes shone with a ferocious glint as though he could charge out at any moment. Caw-caw! On the other side, Little Crane could not stand it any longer and called out to Monkey, ready to pounce. After all, Little Crane had a better relationship with Ling Hu. Suddenly, Su Zimo felt a headache coming on when he heard the continuous roars in the cave. Boom! Before long, Monkey and Ling Hu collided head-on. It was a pure burst of strength without any fancy moves. After a brief pause, Ling Hu was sent flying by Monkey. Slamming into the stone wall behind him, the cave abode shook and dust fell. Ling Hu felt as though his tendons and bones were about to break. Monkey had cultivated the cultivation technique imparted to him by Dai Yu, and would mutate even if his bloodline was ordinary. As for Ling Hu, he was truly just an ordinary walking beast. Even if they were of the same cultivation realm, Ling Hu would be taught a terrible lesson by Monkey, let alone the difference in their cultivation realms. The difference in bloodline was way too great. With a flip, Monkey rode on Ling Hu's body and raised his massive fists, smashing down on Ling Hu's head. Clang! 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 After a few consecutive hits, the spirit tiger was in a daze. It was completely stunned. Swoosh! Little Crane pounced forward from the side and extended a pair of sharp claws that shone with a cold glint, grabbing towards Monkey's back. Without even turning back, Monkey swung his rod casually. The wind howled. Little Crane was alarmed and did not dare to take the blow head-on, dodging to another spot to deal with the monkey. Against Little Crane that could soar into the air at any moment, Monkey was helpless as well. It could only ride on Ling Hu's body and roar at Little Crane. Ow! Ow! Caw-caw! Little Crane's voice was loud and excited as it replied. Ling Hu, who was sprawled beneath Monkey, would roar from time to time as well. The cries of the three demon beasts sounded one after another, and Su Zimo could no longer make out what they were saying. However, he could roughly guess that Monkey wanted to be the king and leader of the three of them. However, Ling Hu and Little Crane refused to give in and were indignant. Monkey took the demon beast egg from Su Zimo's hands and pointed at it, howling for a long time. Before long, the three spirit beasts came to a consensus. They would take turns to incubate the demon beast egg, and whoever the spirit beast chose to follow would be their king. There were 24 hours in a day. Initially, the three spirit beasts could split it equally for 8 hours. Unexpectedly, Ling Hu became the most pitiful one once more. Ling Hu's 8 hours were forcefully taken up by Monkey and Little Crane, leaving him with only 4 hours left. In another cave abode on Misty Peak, it was dark and quiet. Feng Haoyu assumed a lotus position with many spirit stones around him. His cultivation realm was already at perfected foundation establishment, and he had even unlocked a meridian. All of a sudden, a sinister wind blew. Feng Haoyu opened his eyes and was in no hurry to survey his surroundings. Instead, he was deep in thought, as though he was waiting for something. Su Zimo is back. Before long, a hoarse voice sounded. It was erratic, but it came from within Feng Haoyu's cave abode. The disheveled old man has already obtained a tempering technique. If Su Zimo is left alone to comprehend it, there won't be much time left for Misty Peak. It's easy to kill him, Feng Haoyu frowned. However, how are we going to deal with the other 3 legacy disciples of Misty Peak at the same time? If we cripple those 3 legacy disciples in Su Zimo, there's almost no one in Misty Peak who has the ability to leave their names on the ranking lists of the sect competition. Don't worry, the opportunity is here. The hoarse voice sounded. After this battle, you and I can return to the sect with success. Chapter 208. Black Crow Mountain. Located in the northwest corner of the Great Zhou dynasty, it was vast and filled with beasts. There were many crows in the forests and most of them were sentient. In fact, there were even black crow demons that had cultivated supreme dermic powers that ruled over a region with terrifying strength. It was said that there was once a perfected being Jin Dan, who entered the depths of Black Crow Mountain but never returned. A few years ago, a middle-aged man came to Black Raven Mountain. His dark green eyes emitted a strange light. He walked into the depths of Black Raven Mountain without looking back. From that day onwards, the crows of Black Crow Mountain turned unusually ferocious with bloodshot eyes. The skies of Black Crow Mountain were shrouded in a blood mist all year round. In the depths of the dense forest, a grand hall known as Blood Crow Palace rose from the ground. In a few short years, all the sects in the vicinity of Black Crow Mountain had submitted to Blood Crow Palace. This day, a pale-faced young man with dark green eyes arrived outside Blood Crow Palace. He was at Perfected Foundation establishment and knelt on one knee, cupping his fists. Master, a year ago my blood slave was killed outside Linfeng City. We've already found out who the murderer is. His name is Su Zimo and he's an inner sect disciple of Misty Peak. The blood mist spread through the forest and Blood Crow Palace was like an ancient fiend demon sitting on the spot. It was faintly discernible and sinister, emitting a cold aura. After the young cultivator said those 2 sentences, Blood Crow Palace fell silent without a single sound. As though he was used to it, the young cultivator continued. In this battle, Blood Crow Palace lost a middle-grade spirit mine and lost more than 30 Foundation establishment cultivators. Even though they were all outer disciples, it's still an unprecedented setback. I've heard that the seal of Misty Peak Spirit Pool is about to be unsealed. At that time, Misty Peak will definitely arrange for their perfected Foundation establishment disciples to be cleansed by the Spirit Pool. I intend to lead my men there and take them all down in one fell swoop. At the same time, I'll take in all the legacy disciples of Misty Peak as my blood slaves. A long time later, a voice sounded from Blood Crow Palace. Yes, be careful and bring more men with you. The young cultivator lowered his head. Don't worry, Master. Let Yu Fei and Peng Yu accompany you. After a brief pause, the voice from Blood Crow Palace sounded once more. The young cultivator was overjoyed and hurriedly said, Thank you, Master. Once this matter is settled, come back and cultivate in seclusion. 3 years later, the primordial battlefield will open. Only then will you find your true opponent. After saying this, the Blood Crow Palace fell silent once more. Not long after, 2 people walked out from inside. They wore black Taoist robes and were expressionless. Occasionally, a green light flashed across their eyes. Yu Fei and Peng Yu greet the young lord. The 2 of them walked up to the young cultivator, knelt down on one knee, and shouted in unison. The young cultivator nodded in satisfaction. The 2 people in front of him were Jinren Jin Dan. They were also his master's blood slaves. Master's standards were extremely high. Anyone who could be taken in as a blood slave by Master was not simple. His master had single-handedly created the Blood Crow Palace, and was the Palace Lord of the Blood Crow Palace. With that identity, even though he was only a Foundation establishment cultivator, his status in Blood Crow Palace was extremely high. He was the young master of Blood Crow Palace. Misty Peak Su Zimo. Ha ha ha. Misty Peak. Ever since Su Zimo's return, he had not been idle at all. When Little Fatty, Shui and some other Weapon Peak disciples came to visit, There was naturally no lack of drinks. During this period of time, Lung Ro came by as well and chatted with Su Zimo for a while before leaving. When Shui and the others saw that, they naturally kicked up a fuss. In the sect, the only person who could get Lung Ro to visit personally was Su Zimo. Previously, Lung Ro even gave Su Zimo 2 talismans. Those 2 talismans had always been in his storage bag and Su Zimo had not used them yet. Although the favor was neither big nor small, the other party had indeed spent a lot of effort on it. Su Zimo wanted to refine a middle grade or superior grade spirit weapon and return it to Lung Ro after he gained some enlightenment in the art of weapon refinement. On the second day after Su Zimo returned to the sect, the disheveled old man came looking for him before he could even visit him. "Brat, where have you been for the past 3 months? You didn't even reply to my messages." When the disheveled old man caught sight of Su Zimo, he scolded him to his face. Su Zimo replied half-truthfully, "I went home for a while." Yes. When he heard that, the disheveled old man's expression softened as he nodded. Cough. The disheveled old man coughed gently and slapped his storage bag. An ancient book appeared in his palm as he said indifferently, "Take it. It's an ancient tempering book." True enough. As Su Zimo had expected, the disheveled old man had indeed bid for the ancient book at the Sky Treasure auction house for him. The person who wrote this ancient book was called Su Zhan. He was an advanced weapon refinement master from 1,000 years ago. At his peak, he refined dozens of supreme-grade spirit weapons, and it's said that he even refined a perfect spirit weapon. Even though there's no image of him refining weapons, study this ancient book well. Given your comprehension of weapon refinement, it won't be a problem for you to refine middle-grade or even superior-grade spirit weapons in the future. The disheveled old man was extremely confident in Su Zimo. Su Zimo had long known about the origin of the ancient tempering book. However, if he appeared too calm, he would definitely arouse the disheveled old man's suspicions. Su Zimo had no choice but to pretend to be surprised and asked, "Master, this ancient book must have cost quite a bit of spirit stones, right?" "Yes, it's all right." The disheveled old man nodded and said indifferently, "Back then, the competition for this book was extremely intense. Initially, I wouldn't have been able to bid for it. In the end, I bumped into an old friend." At that point, the disheveled old man purposely kept Su Zimo in suspense before saying slowly, "My friend has a huge background and he gave it to me on the spot without a second word." Even though the disheveled old man was trying his best to suppress it, his eyes were filled with glee. "Zimo, let me tell you, back then, the entire auction house was completely silent. Even if others had spirit stones, they couldn't use them. However, my friend wanted to give it to me and no one could stop him. Those people are just staring at me. They are so envious of me." Su Zimo could not help but lower his head when he heard the disheveled old man's bragging, almost bursting out in laughter. "Zimo, what's wrong? You don't believe me?" Noticing Su Zimo's abnormality, the disheveled old man raised his brow. "Nothing." Su Zimo waved it off hurriedly. Cough cough. "All right, let's not talk about it anymore. Cultivate well." The disheveled old man seemed to have realized that he had gone overboard and said something else before turning to leave. In reality, Su Zimo's future achievements would not be too high if he only had this ancient tempering book without the advanced weapon refinement image. However, in the cave abode beneath the cold lake, Hake Dojin had once demonstrated the entire weapon refinement process for Su Zimo. That was a perfect and flawless weapon refinement. Coupled with the ancient tempering book in his hands and Su Zimo's own spirit gathering technique, he was confident that he could refine a supreme-grade spirit weapon. It was not something that could only be refined occasionally depending on the condition. It was a 100% success rate. Chapter 209. For the next period of time, Su Zimo returned to his normal cultivation. During the day, he spent some time to raise his cultivation realm and most of his time on weapon refinement. At night, Su Zimo's cave abode was tightly shut, and he activated the formation to begin his demonic cultivation and organs refinement. Because organs refinement would produce an endless amount of thick demonic qi, the formation could not only prevent outsiders from entering, it could also conceal the aura within the cave abode. The next morning, all the demonic qi would be absorbed into Su Zimo's body. For the past few days, Monkey, Ling Hu and Little Crane circled around the demon beast egg day and night. Monkey incubated it for 10 hours and Little Crane was next. Every day when it was late at night, the spirit tiger would only have 4 hours to rest. Ling Hu hugged the demon beast egg to his chest and even licked it from time to time, blinking his tiger eyes and sighing. At this rate, no matter who's the boss in the end, I'm going to be the last one. Ling Hu looked at the demon beast egg and lamented internally, hurry up and come out. That way I'll still have a lackey. Otherwise, I won't be able to live in the future. That damned monkey and stupid bird are going to bully me to death. 4 hours passed in the blink of an eye. Ling Hu felt as though he had just hugged the demon beast egg and had yet to warm it when Monkey came up and carried it to the side, sitting on it. Although Ling Hu was indignant, he did not dare to resist and could only watch pitifully from the side. For some reason, Su Zimo felt that Monkey, Ling Hu and Little Crane were very concerned about the demon beast egg and were afraid of knocking it. Apart from the three of them, no one else was allowed to touch it. He did not know if it was the effect of Su Zimo's bloodline or the three of them taking turns to look after it. After a few days, there was indeed a reaction from the demon beast egg. The demon beast egg began to emit a wave of life energy. Initially, it was weak. However, as time passed by, it became clearer and stronger. When they heard that Su Zimo brought back a demon beast egg from a ruin, the divine guardian beast of the sect, Senior Crane, visited a few times as well and paid attention to the incubation process of the demon beast egg. During this period of time, Su Zimo had also browsed through many ancient books regarding demon beasts. He memorized all sorts of information regarding demon beasts, ancient remnant beasts and pure-blooded ferocious beasts. According to Senior Crane, the birth of a pure-blooded ferocious beast would alarm the heavens and cause a universal phenomenon. The stronger the ferocious beast's bloodline was, the more intense and frightening the phenomenon would be. Of the world of the ferocious beast egg, the sky, of course, of the world of the heavens, would be dyed red and there would even a rain of fire. Rain. Flood of the world 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 of time of the world of the world of the world of the world, for at least 7 days of the time. Of the world of the world of the of time, the of the world of the world of the world. Of the of the of the of the of the of. Ever since the ancient era, there had been countless examples of that. Although there were no universal phenomenons, the birth of an ancient remnant beast would be accompanied by a resplendent glow, indicating that its bloodline was extraordinary, and its future accomplishments would be different from other demon beasts. A month later, the life within the demon beast egg intensified and was almost at its peak. This meant that the life within the demon beast egg could descend at any moment. Suddenly, Su Zimo felt a little nervous as well. Monkey, Ling Hu and Little Crane busied themselves for an entire month and spent most of their attention on the demon beast egg. Su Zimo truly could not tell who the spirit beast would follow after it hatched. This day, Monkey, who was initially squatting on the demon beast egg, shuddered and leaped up. Monkey's strange behavior attracted the gazes of Ling Hu and Little Crane. Su Zimo opened his eyes and looked forward as well. Not far away, the demon beast egg shook gently on the ground and a new life was struggling within, wanting to come into the world. All of a sudden, a beautiful red-haired woman appeared in the cave abode. It was Senior Crane in human form. She glared at the demon beast egg with a grim expression and pursed her lips in silence. Swash! Su Zimo's vision blurred and another cultivator appeared in the cave abode. His aura was strong and his gaze was introverted. It was Patriarch Ling Yun. Although Patriarch Ling Yun had never been here before, it was clear that he was paying attention to this matter in secret. Before long, the 5 peak masters, Wen Xian, Xianyi and the disheveled old man, arrived together. Right after, many other grand elders of the sect arrived. There were old men with white hair and beards and old women with wooden staffs. Everyone looked at the demon beast egg on the ground with a hint of anticipation in their eyes. Jining Zhenjuan was the only one who could become a grand elder in the sect. Su Zimo was secretly shocked. The commotion this time round was not small. Apart from an attack on a sect or a calamity, there was probably nothing else that could gather so many people together. These people were the top cultivators of Misty Peak. The initially spacious cave abode seemed a little cramped after these people entered. Monkey, Ling Hu and Little Crane sat down in 3 different directions, maintaining a distance from the demon beast egg that was neither too far nor too close, protecting it in the middle. Suzimo was squeezed out of the crowd. It would have been fine if it was an ordinary demon beast that was hatched and not many people would pay attention to it. However, everyone heard that the demon beast egg was picked up from a ruin, and there were many mysterious and complicated patterns etched on the surface of the egg. That was something that everyone had to pay attention to. Yes, those patterns are indeed mysterious. Even with my knowledge, I can't tell what's on it, a nascent soul old man said slowly after staring at the demon beast egg for a long time. An old woman frowned. It seems like some sort of inheritance is recorded on it. Seems like this demon beast has quite a background and isn't simple. Another person nodded. Right then, the demon beast egg that was initially shaking violently suddenly stopped, attracting everyone's attention. Everyone held their breaths. It was so silent that one could hear a pin drop in the massive cave abode. Crack. There was a crisp sound. Everyone's eyes lit up. A faint crack appeared on the surface of the demon beast egg. After a momentary pause, crack, crack, crack. A series of sounds came from the surface of the demon beast egg. In the blink of an eye, 3 more cracks appeared on the eggshell. They became clearer and spread out in all directions densely. All of a sudden, piak, a small hole appeared at the top of the eggshell. A pitch-black claw peeled open the eggshell bit by bit and was the first to reach out. Senior Crane's red-headed beauty's eyes dimmed in disappointment. Patriarch Lingyun frowned and sighed gently. Some of the nascent soul grandelders released their spirit consciousnesses as well and checked outside the cave abode. They only retracted their spirit consciousnesses when they did not discover anything amiss. It was calm outside and there were no signs of a universal phenomenon. This meant that the demon beast before them was no longer a pure-blooded ferocious beast. Many grand elders shook their heads. The reason why they came was to see if a pure-blooded ferocious beast could be nurtured. If this was a pure-blooded ferocious beast, it would be the biggest event in the sect for thousands of years. Unfortunately, everyone came in high spirits, but now they were disappointed. Chapter 210. Suzimo had once fantasized about how great it would be if he could give birth to a pure-blooded ferocious beast. However, the moment that life was truly born, Suzimo could sense a hint of bloodline connection. It was faintly discernible but extremely subtle. Suzimo smiled gently. No matter what the demon beast's potential or bloodline was, Suzimo had decided to keep it by his side and raise it. Monkey, Linghu and Little Crane stared at the broken eggshell in the middle nervously with widened eyes filled with curiosity. In the hearts of Monkey and Little Crane, this little fellow was something they had nurtured together. Notwithstanding the fact that it was not a pure-blooded ferocious beast or an ancient remnant beast, even if it was a sow, they would have to take care of it carefully and not let this little fella suffer. In Linghu's heart, it was best if this little fella was an ordinary demon beast, and the weaker it was, the better. That way, its status would naturally rise and it would not be bullied all the time. At the same time, it could take in a lackey and bully this little fella on a whim to have some fun. Caw caw. Linghu opened its mouth wide and drooled, smiling foolishly as it was completely immersed in fantasizing about its beautiful future. Piak. Another small claw reached out. It was pitch black and it tore at both sides forcefully. The cracks on the eggshell widened. When they saw that, everyone in the cave abode was even more disappointed as they shook their heads and sighed. It was one thing if there were no universal phenomenons, and it was not a pure-blooded ferocious beast. But why was there no light at all when the eggshell was broken? What did that prove? It proved that this demon beast was not an ancient remnant beast as well. All the top cultivators of Misty Peak had gathered here, and yet they were only here to witness the birth of an ordinary demon beast? The difference was way too great. There were many ordinary demon beasts in the sect as well. Poof! A slightly larger crack appeared on the eggshell and a black head popped out. It looked a little like a dog and its eyes were tightly shut, looking extremely weak. Little beast seemed to be hungry as it sniffed a few times before grabbing the eggshell shards beside it and stuffing them into its mouth. Crunch, crunch, crunch. After a while, the little beast finished eating the fist-sized eggshell. This time, the little beast's figure and appearance were completely exposed in front of everyone. The little critter's entire body was bald and swarthy. It was not known if it was because it had just eaten the eggshell, but its body was a little bloated. The cave once again fell into silence. The atmosphere was strange. Everyone looked at the little beast with strange expressions, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. Although everyone had already determined that this little beast was neither a pure-blooded ferocious beast nor an ancient remnant, it was still too ordinary. An old man shook his head and said, "When a normal demon beast descendant is born, although there are no natural anomalies or colorful lights, because it has been nurtured in its mother's body for a long time, it will be contaminated with demonic aura. The stronger the demonic aura, the stronger the demonic beast is. But this little beast, The old man didn't continue speaking, but everyone saw it clearly. The little beast did not emit any beastly aura from the moment it broke out of its shell. This meant that the little beast could not even be considered as a demon beast. It could only be considered as a wild beast. This little beast doesn't have much intelligence and can't even open its eyes. It's too weak. The old woman at the side shook her head. Although the old woman's words were unpleasant, they were the truth. Everyone knew that if it was a wild beast, it meant that it was not sentient and did not have much intelligence. Suzimo frowned and tried his best to recall the ancient books he had read in the past, comparing the appearance of all the demon beasts, ancient remnant beasts and pure-blooded ferocious beasts with the little beast. After a round of comparison, Suzimo realized that none of the demon beasts before him were completely compatible with the little beast before him. In terms of similarity, the little beast resembled a bear cub the most. In a ruin 5,000 years ago, a bear was hatched from the demon beast egg that Hakyodojin brought back at the cost of his life. Suzimo's lips twitched. If Hakyodojin was still alive and witnessed this scene, he would probably be angered to death. Of course, the little beast before him was not exactly the same as the bear. The little beast's body was slightly bloated, and its head resembled a dog's. Its claws were longer than the bear's and it could retract freely with a blood-red pad in its palm. Squeak! The little beast tried its best to open its mouth and let out a single sound. It did not sound like the powerful roar of a demon beast, but more like the babble of a newborn baby. Foo-foo! A series of kind laughter sounded from the surroundings. Even its cries were so weak. Although everyone could not confirm the origin of the little beast, many signs pointed to the fact that it was the most ordinary type of wild beast. The Linghu was elated. Everything was going according to his plan. He finally had a lackey that he could trample on as he pleased. The little beast tried to walk with clumsy steps, swaying as though it could fall at any moment. Squeak! The little beast cried out again and raised its head to sniff the air, as though it was searching for something. The little beast closed its eyes tightly, and could only rely on its aura to determine its direction. Monkey, the Linghu and little crane tensed up instantly. They had an agreement previously that whoever the little beast looked for after it was born would be the boss of the few of them. The little beast stood on the spot for a moment before turning around slowly, and walking clumsily in the direction of the Linghu. The Linghu was so excited that he nearly could not control his emotions and jumped up to roar. Happiness came too suddenly. Initially, the Linghu thought that it was good enough to have a lackey. To think that it would have a chance to be the boss. What goes around comes around. I finally made it. It hasn't been easy. The Linghu looked at the little beast that was trying its best to walk over, and was so touched that his eyes brimmed with tears. On the other side, Monkey and little crane were indignant and displeased. The Linghu was in a great mood and shook his head at Monkey, even sticking out his tongue cheekily with a smug look in his eyes. Monkey grit his teeth and clenched his fists so tightly that his knuckles cracked and his eyes looked as though they could spew fire. When he saw Monkey's expression, the Linghu shuddered and retracted his tongue hurriedly. By then, the little beast had already arrived in front of the Linghu. The Linghu licked his huge face and leaned over, revealing what he thought was the kindest smile. The little beast paused for a moment and walked around the Linghu's huge face, continuing forward. Ugh! The smile on the Linghu's face froze. This is King awkward. The Linghu wanted to cry but no tears came out as he cursed internally. You're so dishonest. You're going to kill me. The Linghu turned around immediately and looked at Monkey with a fawning expression, feeling a deep sense of guilt and regret for his provocation earlier on. Monkey ignored the Linghu completely and stared at the little beast the entire time. Even though it had just learned how to walk with its eyes closed, The little beast still wobbled its way through the crowd and finally arrived before the Suzimo with much difficulty. Chapter 211. Little Beast raised its head and sniffed carefully a few more times, as though it was confirming. A moment later, Little Beast began to crawl towards Suzimo. Suzimo was seated cross-legged on the ground and was not considered tall. However, Little Beast was too short and tried to climb up Suzimo's robes a few times but to no avail. Instead, it fell a few times and caused a series of laughter. The many grand elders began to leave. There was no point in staying here any longer. Although this black bear was cute, it was merely a wild beast and was no different from the wild rabbits and dogs by the roadside. Suzimo was not bothered at all. No matter what, he was going to raise this little beast and turn it into a powerful existence. So what if it was a wild beast? He did not have a spirit root to begin with, and yet, didn't he step onto the path of cultivation and become a cultivator as well? The birth of a life was not something one could choose. However, the path one took in the future and the kind of achievements one could obtain would require hard work and opportunities. After falling a few times, Little Beast was covered in dust and dirt. It closed its eyes and rubbed gently against Suzimo's feet, looking aggrieved. Suzimo hardened his heart and did not say anything to help it, wanting Little Beast to climb up on its own. Yeah. Little Beast raised its head and opened its toothless mouth, using all its strength to cry out in a pitiful manner. Suzimo's heart softened and he could not hold on any longer. He hurriedly reached out and lifted Little Beast up. Perhaps it was because it was just born. Little Beast was not big. It was about half a foot long and fit perfectly on his palm. Suzimo smiled gently and lifted Little Beast with his left hand. Reaching out with his right hand, he teased it up and down with interest. Zimo, this black bear's potential is too poor. Don't sign a blood oath with it. The disheveled old man was worried and came over to remind him. Although the power of a blood oath was strong, its power would weaken the more blood oaths were signed, and there was no guarantee that demon beasts would not kill their masters in the future. Therefore, generally speaking, most cultivators would only sign a blood oath with one demon beast, or at most two. To the disheveled old man and the others, Suzimo's life would be in danger at any moment if he continued to sign a blood oath with the demon beast. Patriarch Lingyun also nodded towards Suzimo, and said, "This little beast's intelligence has yet to develop, just raise it casually." With that, Lingyun turned and left. When the 5 peak masters saw Suzimo hanging his head and not saying a word, they thought that he was depressed and had suffered a great blow. They couldn't help but sigh and leave the place. At this moment, Suzimo lowered his head and looked at the little beast on his lap. His gaze was strange and he seemed to be deep in thought. At first, Suzimo also thought that the little beast was just an ordinary wild beast. Perhaps it was really a bear cub that had not yet developed its spiritual wisdom, and was just a little cute. But just now the little beast's action changed Suzimo's mind. This little beast was most likely not as simple as everyone said. Earlier on, Suzimo's right hand was playing with the little beast. Suddenly, the little beast's expression changed, as though it sensed something. It stuck its nose out and sniffed carefully on Suzimo's right hand. Finally, the little beast opened its mouth and sucked on Suzimo's right fingertip. It licked it and changed into a comfortable position before falling asleep. That action didn't seem like much. However, there were ripples in Suzimo's heart. His right hand was his strongest trump card and had helped him avert danger twice. In the entire cave abode, no one knew the secret of his right hand. Even Senior Crane did not know about it. However, this little beast had just been born and could not even open its eyes. Yet, it sensed something and tried its best to lean over, biting on his right finger. That was definitely not a coincidence. Senior Crane was still in the cave abode and had not left. Raising his head, Suzimo could not help but ask, "Senior, do you recognize this little beast?" Senior Crane walked over slowly and stood in front of Suzimo. She looked at the little beast carefully before shaking her head. I don't remember seeing a demon beast as such. Could it have been left out in the ancient books?" Suzimo asked again. "That's possible," Senior Crane said in a deep voice. "After all, it's been too long since the primordial era. Coupled with the fact that there are many demon beasts and many of them are already extinct, there might be some that were left out. Pausing for a moment, Senior Crane continued, however, there are indeed no universal phenomenons, lights or demonic chi when this beast was born. Perhaps this is just an ordinary bear cub. As she said that, Senior Crane bent down and reached out, wanting to touch the little beast gently. All of a sudden, the little beast that was initially asleep suddenly woke up. Although its eyes were still closed, it was clear that it was a little nervous. As though it had sensed an unfamiliar aura approaching, the little beast stuck its head out and sniffed. The claws that were initially hidden in the gaps of its palms extended slowly, shimmering with a dark and cold glint. What sharp senses! Suzimo's eyes lit up. One had to know that this little beast had only been born for less than an hour. It couldn't even open its eyes. However, it could still sense the unfamiliar aura in its deep slumber and wake up. Such a reaction was even more proof of the little beast's extraordinariness. Suzimo was a little happy. Phew, Senior Crane froze for a moment before chuckling. This little fellow is rather smart. With that said, Senior Crane reached out and tapped the little beast's forehead dotingly. Hurriedly, the little beast dodged. However, its movements were way too slow and it could not even maintain its balance. As though it realized that it could not dodge, the little beast reached out hurriedly and scratched Senior Crane's palm in a fluster. When he saw that, Suzimo smiled. This little beast was rather interesting and even knew how to retaliate. Suzimo was about to speak when he realized that Senior Crane had a strange expression and was motionless on the spot. Senior, what's wrong? Frowning, Suzimo asked instinctively. Wrong. A moment later, Senior Crane finally snapped back to her senses. As though she was shaken out of her senses, she repeated repeatedly, wrong, we were all wrong. What do you mean? Suzimo was confused. Senior Crane looked at the little beast that was hiding in Suzimo's embrace with a strange glint in her eyes. In fact, there was even a hint of wariness as she asked uncertainly, that little fellow scratched me earlier on? That's right, Suzimo nodded, not understanding what Senior Crane meant. Senior Crane took a deep breath and said slowly, it scratched me. Suzimo froze on the spot and felt a chill run down his spine. There was no way Senior Crane's cultivation realm was weaker than Jinying Jinjuan's. Furthermore, Senior Crane was a demon, and its physique was incomparably strong to begin with. Even if Little Beast was a pure-blooded ferocious beast, its claws would not pose any threat and would merely scratch Senior Crane's body like an itch. However, Senior Crane actually felt pain. The scariest thing was that Little Beast was only born for less than an hour. Just now, if it had landed on Suzimo's body, it would have created a few bloody holes. Chapter 212. Even though he did not know the background of this little beast, it was not hard to imagine how terrifying it would be once it grew up. This little beast's background is definitely not simple. Take good care of it and it'll definitely be of great help to you in the future. Senior Crane said and took a closer look at Little Beast, her eyes filled with doubt. What was going on? There were no universal phenomenons, resplendent lights, or even demonic chi. How could this little beast possess such frightening lethality? Senior Crane shook her head, unable to figure it out no matter how hard she thought, and left in confusion. Before she left, Senior Crane was still worried and turned around, reminding Right, be more careful and keep an eye on it. Don't let it run around the sect. Don't worry, Senior, Suzimo nodded. I'll guard it for this period of time and won't let anything happen to it. In Suzimo's opinion, Little Beast had just been born and could not even open its eyes. It did not know anything and was at its weakest. If it were to run around the sect, it could easily die. Senior Crane's mouth twitched and she rolled her eyes in a human-like manner. I'm worried that something might happen to others. Suzimo. Monkey Linghu and Little Crane only walked over after Senior Crane left. Linghu had mocked Monkey earlier on, and was taught a lesson by the latter. Little Crane was watching the show at the side, and none of them noticed the conversation between the crane and Suzimo. After Linghu returned, he looked at Little Beast with a bitter expression and lamented internally, Black Bear, I'm really dead because of you. I'll remember this debt for now and settle it with you when you're older. Humph. Little Beast was truly way too short, and Linghu was worried that he would slap it half to death with a casual slap. After a day, Little Beast was able to open its eyes. Its eyes were pitch black and sparkling like a pair of resplendent gems that were filled with spirituality. During this day, Monkey, Linghu and Little Crane left the sect and brought back a lot of demon beast milk, placing it all in front of Little Beast. Little Beast sniffed for a moment but did not eat it. He seemed to be a little disgusted. The little critter chose to turn back and continue sucking on Suzimo's right hand's finger. Perhaps it was because of the eggshell. For an entire week, the little beast was not hungry at all. The most common thing the little beast did was to lie on Suzimo's knees, with Suzimo's right finger in its mouth, and have a good sleep. During this period of time, Suzimo vaguely understood the little beast's temperament. The little beast was the closest to him. Basically, it would pester him every day. The little beast was extremely sensitive to unfamiliar auras. As long as a stranger approached, the little beast would be on guard and even counterattack. Other than Suzimo, it was rather close to Monkey, Linghu and Little Crane. From this point of view, the monkey and the others didn't waste their time in the past month. Sometimes the four of them would play around in the cave abode and play together. Each time he saw that, Suzimo would feel a sense of warmth and smile. A week later, the little beast's teeth were basically all grown out. Although they were still small, they were extremely sharp and were not weaker than its claws. However, what confused Monkey, Linghu and Little Crane was that no matter what spirit beast they hunted, Little Beast would only sniff it and not eat it. Even if it was hungry, Little Beast would not touch the blood food with Suzimo's finger in its mouth. That's strange. Suzimo could not understand it either. Could Little Beast be a vegetarian? On second thought, Suzimo realized that that could not be right. Little Beast's claws and teeth did not look like it was a vegetarian at all. For the past few days, Suzimo did not cultivate much. Instead, he specially refined a few cauldrons of elixirs and selected the supreme grade and perfect grade ones to feed Little Beast. However, the Little Beast did not take a single bite of the elixirs that Monkey, Linghu and Little Crane were fighting over. That's strange. Suzimo tapped Little Beast's forehead and chided softly. Why aren't you eating anything, Hia. Little Beast had yet to master the language of the demon race completely, and could only squeak and blink its black diamond-like eyes in a wronged manner. This day, Monkey and Little Crane went out to hunt. Suzimo sat on the stone bed with spirit stones in his hands, as though he was cultivating and could not be distracted. The chance is here. During this period of time, Linghu had been cultivating the Void Thunder Manual, and felt that his strength had increased significantly. He was already a Foundation Establishment spirit demon. Linghu rubbed his palms and was prepared to make use of this opportunity to teach Little Beast a lesson. He wanted to establish a dignified and irresistible image in Little Beast's heart. Black Bear, stop sleeping. Wake up for me. Linghu snuck in front of Little Beast and suddenly growled. He slapped the back of his hand towards Little Beast's head. Initially, Little Beast was still asleep. However, it shuddered and instinctively reached out with its claws to block. A flash of blood appeared. Instantly, a few bloody holes appeared on Linghu's tiger paw. Linghu was dumbfounded. Little Beast was completely awake as well. Roar! Linghu cried out in pain and glared at Little Beast with a grim expression. Gritting his teeth, he hollered, "Black Bear, you're not being honest. Why are you so nervous even when you're sleeping? You've got me in trouble." Little Beast inched over embarrassedly and licked the wounds on Linghu's palm to comfort him. This is completely different from what I imagined. After the Black Bear was born, I was still the weakest. Linghu was in tears and sorrowful. At this moment, Monkey strode in from outside the cave abode. His entire body was covered in blood, and he carried a leopard on his shoulder. His body was massive like a small mountain and his body was covered in jade-green fur. Jade Cloud Leopard. Suzimo recognized the origin of the leopard right away. It was an ancient remnant beast that was extremely strong. The Jade Cloud Leopard's head was smashed and it was covered in wounds. It was clearly dead. There were many wounds on Monkey's body as well. It was clear how intense the battle was. The moment the Jade Cloud Leopard's corpse was put down, Little Beast suddenly jumped down from Suzimo's body and sniffed it. Shing! Little Beast reached out with its claws and sliced through the Jade Cloud Leopard's flesh with ease. Opening its mouth, it tore off a piece of meat and swallowed it. When he saw that, he gradually narrowed his eyes. During this period of time, Suzimo had been observing Little Beast the entire time. In more than 10 days, Little Beast's body had grown a little and it was no longer bloated. It no longer resembled a black bear. Little Beast's head was like a dog and its body was like a tiger. It was pitch black without any fur, and when it retracted its claws, it moved silently. Su Zimo had taken a closer look at Little Beast's claws and teeth. Be it in terms of structure or sharpness, it was something he had never seen before. Furthermore, in the past few days, Little Beast had vaguely revealed a frightening talent in combat as it played around. That talent in combat seemed to be more like an instinct. Extremely sharp claws and teeth, a sharp sense of smell, immense strength, shocking burst power, frightening talent in combat. A demon beast like that was practically born to kill. In front of Su Zimo, Monkey, Ling Hu and Little Crane, Little Beast appeared extremely obedient and adorable. However, in the dead of the night, Little Beast would get up quietly and patrol the cave abode with a cold gaze. Occasionally, Little Beast would look up at the full moon at the entrance of the cave abode and exude an inexplicable aura. It was ancient and mysterious, as though it was a god that walked the mortal realm in the night. How about, I call you Night Spirit from now on, Su Zimo murmured softly. Chapter 213. After half a month, Su Zimo discovered that the Night Spirit, also known as the mysterious Little Beast, was very picky with its food. It would not touch the flesh of ordinary demon beasts at all. The Night Spirit would only choose to eat the flesh of ancient remnant beasts. Furthermore, it did not seem to like it much and ate very little. Su Zimo did not think too much about it and merely treated it as though he did not find the right food. After all, most demon beasts would not eat all types of demon beasts. They would only prefer certain types of demon beasts. Su Zimo was prepared to bring the Night Spirit out after it grew a little older, so that it could search for demon beasts on its own. As time passed by, the surface of the Night Spirit's body started to turn rough, as though something was about to grow out. A month later, the disheveled old man suddenly visited. Zimo, I've got good news. The moment the disheveled old man entered, he said with a smile, get ready. Wen Xian and a few elders of the sect will bring you guys to a place 3 days later. Where? Su Zimo asked. There's a valley 50 kilometers away from the sect called Dongling Valley. Dongling Valley has a unique geography and is a natural place for qi gathering. All the surrounding spirit qi is gathered within the valley before being channeled into a spirit pool. The disheveled old man said, once every 10 years, the spirit pool will be filled and it will open once, allowing the perfected foundation establishment cultivators of the sect to enter to cultivate. A year of cultivation inside is equivalent to 5 years of cultivation outside. Su Zimo nodded. In that case, Dongling Valley was truly a blessed land. Suddenly, Su Zimo was puzzled. Master, I'm not at perfected foundation establishment either. The disheveled old man chuckled. Initially, this had nothing to do with you. However, Elder Chun of the sect made a suggestion to let some inner sect disciples with great potential enter the spirit pool to cultivate as well. Elder Chun even specially mentioned your name in the main hall of Ethereal Palace. Oh. Su Zimo was slightly surprised. He had not been in the inner sect for long and had spent most of his time in seclusion. He truly did not know who Elder Chan was. The disheveled old man continued, Zimo, you have to thank Elder Chan properly when you see him 3 days later. Su Zimo nodded. During the period of time after returning to the sect, Su Zimo's time was split. He studied weapon refinement and the candlelight sword formation at the same time, as well as immortality and demonic, as well as taking care of the Night Spirit. With such a rare opportunity, Su Zimo could put everything aside and focus on his cultivation so that he could break through as soon as possible. In the blink of an eye, 3 days. A days as well as Zimo. As well as Zimo's as well as Dongling. Furthermore, Dongling Valley was a place for cultivators to raise their cultivation. Monkey and the rest wouldn't be of much use there. However, when it heard that Su Zimo was leaving, the Night Spirit squeaked non-stop, insisting on tagging along. After hesitating for a long time, Su Zimo's heart softened and he agreed. For the past month, under Su Zimo's strict orders, the Night Spirit had not taken a single step out of the cave abode. It's time for it to go out and see the outside world. At that thought, Su Zimo stuffed the Night Spirit into his clothes and instructed it not to come out before leaving the cave abode. The gathering point was the mountain in front of the sect. The moment Su Zimo arrived, he caught sight of two familiar faces, Little Fatty and Lung Ro. "Bro, over here." Little Fatty waved. Lung Ro nodded gently and greeted, "Junior brother Su." Given Lung Ro's character, it was already unprecedented for her to take the initiative to address someone as Junior brother Su. After not meeting for a while, Little Fatty and Lung Ro had already entered late-stage foundation establishment. Of course, that did not mean that Su Zimo's cultivation speed was not fast enough. On the contrary, Su Zimo's cultivation speed was extremely fast. Even though he split most of his attention on elixir refinement, weapon refinement, formation and demonic cultivation, his cultivation realm did not fall behind. Beside Little Fatty and Lung Ro stood more than 30 inner sect disciples. Su Zimo swept his gaze across them. The cultivation realms of these inner sect disciples were all at the late stage of foundation establishment. Su Zimo raised his brow and did not say anything. As time passed by, more cultivators arrived one after another. Su Zimo had been observing the entire time. Be it the cultivators before or after, he was the only one who was at mid-stage foundation establishment. Su Zimo sensed that something was amiss and felt that something was amiss. If the Dongling Valley trip was based on cultivation realms, it should be late-stage foundation establishment. Why would they bring a mid-stage foundation establishment disciple like him along? If it was based on potential and potential, why were all of them at late-stage or perfected foundation establishment apart from him? This arrangement was filled with contradictions. "Look, those three are the three legacy disciples of the inner sect." Little Fatty exclaimed softly and pointed to the three people flying over on their swords not far away. "The gray-robed cultivator on the left is Ji Chengtan. It's said that he's at 4 Meridian Foundation Establishment." Typically, a perfected foundation establishment cultivator would be referred to as a multi-meridian foundation establishment, after unlocking several spirit meridians. The blue-robed cultivator on the right is Luo Yi, also at 4 Meridian Foundation Establishment. The one in the middle is the leader of the 3 legacy disciples, Qin Yu. He's at 5 Meridian Foundation Establishment and is the true number 1 of the inner sect. I even heard from my master that Qin Yu has a chance of unlocking his 6th spirit meridian before the sect competition. Typically speaking, the chances of forming a core after unlocking 4 spirit meridians were already very high. Furthermore, in the sect competition, even 4 Meridian Foundation Establishment cultivators had a chance of getting into the top 10. 5 Meridian Foundation Establishment cultivators were definitely in the top 10. As for 6 Meridian Foundation Establishment cultivators, it was already good enough if 1 or 2 of them appeared in the sect competition every 10 years. That alone was enough to show the value of Ethereal Foundation Establishment, one of the 3 great secret skills of Misty Peak. At the very least, one could unlock 4 spirit meridians by cultivating Ethereal Foundation Establishment. After that, it would depend on the cultivator's own potential, talent, comprehension, and opportunities. For thousands of years, there had been disciples who had unlocked 6 spirit meridians in the sect. In Tianhuang mainland, even if a 6 Meridian Foundation Establishment cultivator cultivated to 100 years old, they might not be able to unlock their 7th spirit meridian. If they wanted to improve further, they could only enter the ancient battlefield. It was there that they had a chance of obtaining heaven-defying opportunities to unlock their 7th or even 8th spirit meridians. The reason why cultivators wanted to unlock as many spirit meridians as possible was not only to increase their strength, but also to prepare for their core formation. Naturally, the quality of a Jin Dan formed with 4 spirit meridians could not compare to a Jin Dan formed with 5 spirit meridians. A Jin Dan with 5 spirit meridians could not compare to a Jin Dan with 6 spirit meridians. It was said that once a Jin Dan's quality reached a certain level, one's spirit energy would resonate with the spirit energy of heaven and earth, resulting in a phenomenon that could shake the heavens and earth. That was the famous Jin Dan phenomenon of the cultivation world. Chapter 214. Since ancient times, there have been countless cultivators who formed their cores. However, none of them managed to cultivate a Jin Dan phenomenon. That was because everyone learned different things, had different experiences, had different understandings of core formation and unlocked spirit meridians. Due to the many different factors, there were many different types of Jin Dan phenomenons. The power of Jindan phenomenons varied as well. Some phenomenons were extremely powerful and could shake the world and cause tsunamis the moment they were released. However, the power of some anomalies was relatively weaker. It was said that there would definitely be phenomenons when all 8 meridians were unlocked. However, unlocking all 8 meridians was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Thousands of years ago, including the founding master of Misty Peak, there was only a single person who managed to unlock all 8 meridians. That person was the owner of the mystic gold silk armor, the terrifying expert who left behind the Void Thunder manual. Let's go up and greet them. It's not easy to meet these 3 senior brothers. Little Fatty pulled Suzimo over and cupped his fists with a smile. Greetings, senior brothers. Qin Yu and the other 2 shifted their gazes and swept past Little Fatty swiftly. They paused for a moment on Suzimo before turning to the side with cold expressions. Little Fatty smiled awkwardly. When Suzimo saw how the 3 of them were acting, he dismissed the thought of greeting them as well. Some of the other perfected foundation establishment, 1 Meridian and 2 Meridian Foundation establishment cultivators looked at Suzimo and the others with unfriendly gazes as well. Hey, it's not their fault. Little Fatty explained. There's a limit to the spirit energy in the spirit pool. If 1 more person absorbs it, it means that the cultivation speed of others will decrease. This trip to Dongling Valley had nothing to do with us to begin with. It's equivalent to us snatching other people's cultivation resources. Realization dawned on Suzimo. Lungro shook her head. The spirit pool belongs to the sect, not them. Furthermore, we're also disciples of the sect. That's true, but others might not think that way. Little Fatty smiled bitterly. Not long after, a man in a purple robe with an arrogant expression flew over on his sword. Around him were many disciples of the sect. Feng Haoyu. One had to admit that Feng Haoyu's cultivation speed was indeed fast. He had already reached perfected foundation establishment. Feng Haoyu's gaze turned, and when he saw Suzimo, he actually walked over. Junior brother Su, long time no see. Feng Haoyu came before Suzimo and said with a faint smile. This was the first time the 2 of them were meeting ever since Feng Haoyu's crushing defeat to Suzimo at Array Peak Spirit Arena. Suzimo looked at Feng Haoyu calmly and silently. There was something strange about this. Feng Haoyu had stopped Suzimo twice in private. His spirit sense told Suzimo that Feng Haoyu wanted to kill him on both occasions. But now, Feng Haoyu actually pretended as if nothing had happened and ran over to greet him? With Feng Haoyu's vengeful nature, would he lower himself to do such a thing? There must be something fishy going on. Feng Haoyu smiled and asked why? Is junior brother Su not even interested in talking to me? Feng Haoyu was truly smiling, as though there was something that made him extremely happy. Enter Dongling Valley's spirit pool to cultivate? That might not be the case. Right then, 3 figures arrived together from not far away. The one in the middle was Spirit Peak's master, Wen Xian. Dressed in white robes, he flew through the air with an elegant expression. The other 2 were perfected Jindan and elders of the sect as well. Sweeping his gaze across the disciples below, Wen Xian nodded and waved his sleeves. A spirit vessel appeared and expanded with the wind in the blink of an eye. There was enough space on the spirit vessel that could carry hundreds of people. Come on up. Wen Xian and the 2 sect elders were the first to board the spirit vessel and stood at the bow. Many sect disciples soared into the air on their swords and arrived on the spirit vessel with excited expressions. The cultivators who could stand on the spirit vessel were all acknowledged disciples of the sect, and were enough to make others envious. The spirit vessel turned into a streak of light and tore through the air at an extremely fast speed. Suzimo, Little Fatty and Lung Ro stood together, and could feel the wind howling in their ears as the scenery flashed by rapidly. Suzimo swept his gaze across the 2 sect elders and asked softly, I wonder which one of them is Elder Chan? Little Fatty pointed to the one on the right. The one in black robes is Elder Chan. The one on the left is Elder Yu. Bro, what are you doing? Nothing. Suzimo replied. I heard that it's all thanks to Elder Chen's suggestion that we can enter the spirit pool to cultivate this time round. Yes, I heard about that too. Little Fatty chuckled. Elder Chan is a good person. Suzimo smiled and did not reply. A moment later, Suzimo felt increasingly uneasy. He had a nagging feeling that something was amiss, but he could not figure it out. Su Zimo passed through the crowd and arrived at the front of the spirit vessel, bowing with cupped fists. Disciple Su Zimo greets Peak Master Wen Xian and the two elders. Wen Xian glanced sideways and nodded. The two sect elders turned back to look at Su Zimo with questioning expressions as well. Seniors, I'm a little worried. What? Wen Xian's tone was cold and indifferent. Due to his relationship with Feng Haoyu, Wen Xian had always been prejudiced against Su Zimo. Su Zimo said, almost all the Foundation Establishment core disciples of the sect are gathered for this trip to Dongling Valley. If they encounter any danger, it will be a huge blow to the sect. The sect will definitely not be able to fight for a spot in the 4 ranking lists in the sect competition 3 years later. As he spoke, Su Zimo had been paying attention to the expressions of Wen Xian and the other two. When he heard that, Elder Yu could not help but laugh. You can head back. There's no need to worry about this. Wen Xian said coldly, do you know what it means to surround and kill our sect's Foundation Establishment core disciples? Which sect in the Great Zhou dynasty would have the guts to do so? Elder Yu smiled as well. Although the spirit pool of Dongling Valley opens once every 10 years, outsiders won't know the exact date. Although Elder Chun did not say anything, there was no change in his emotions and he was expressionless the entire time. Unable to tell anything, Su Zimo frowned and returned to his original spot. 6 hours later, a valley could be vaguely seen up ahead. We're here. Arriving above the valley, the spirit vessel descended slowly and many cultivators leaped off. There were 2 Jin Dan perfected beings guarding Dongling Valley, including Wen Xian and the other 2. There were already 5 Jin Dan perfected beings guarding Misty Peak. In the middle of Dongling Valley there was a spirit pool. The surface of the pool was sparkling, emitting a rich spirit energy. Even though they were hundreds of meters away, Su Zimo and the others could sense it clearly. This is truly a blessed land. Little Fatty let out an intoxicated expression and took a deep breath of air, praising. Fufu. Feng Haoyu smiled and said meaningfully, everyone enjoy yourselves. Right then a pitch-black cloud appeared outside Dongling Valley, rumbling over at an extremely fast speed. There were even specks of scarlet light shimmering within the dark cloud in a sinister manner. The weather had changed. Chapter 215. Wen Xian's expression changed as he narrowed his eyes and looked in the direction of the black clouds. When Su Zimo saw the black clouds, he suddenly frowned and felt a sense of déjà vu. The black clouds moved extremely quickly and shone with a strange red light. Instead of looking like clouds, they resembled blood-eyed crows from the mine. The so-called black clouds were in fact a swarm of crows. The shimmering red lights were the eyes of the crows. Su Zimo recalled the battle outside Linfeng City and said in a deep voice, everyone be careful. It's the group of people from the spirit mine outside Linfeng City. They're here for revenge? Fiend sects? Wen Xian narrowed his eyes with killing intent. Everyone from Misty Peak thought that the tragedy in Linfeng City was caused by someone from the fiend sections. However, Su Zimo found out from Demoness Ji that the fiend sects did not have such vicious methods and cultivation techniques. Su Zimo trusted Demoness Ji on this point. Although she seemed frivolous, she knew her limits and had the pride of the fiend sects in her bones. If it was done by someone from the fiend sects, she would definitely admit to it. Su Zimo looked at Little Fatty and Lung Ro and whispered, if you see that the situation isn't right later, run. What's wrong? Little Fatty was shocked. Lung Ro frowned slightly as well. Both of them had yet to realize the danger. To them, the sect had Wen Xian and the other 5 perfected Jindan cultivators here along with a group of top Foundation Establishment cultivators. Their strength was enough to destroy some small sects. Why should they be afraid of others? Su Zimo did not say anything and swept his gaze across Elder Chan and Feng Haoyu before withdrawing a flying sword from his storage bag. It was the supreme-grade flying sword that Hakea Dojin had refined for him. During this period of time, Su Zimo had spent most of his time researching tempering techniques, comprehending the candlelight sword formation and raising his cultivation realm. He had yet to refine weapons. Out of all the spirit weapons in his storage bag, this was the only supreme-grade flying sword. Soon the dark clouds arrived above Dongling Valley. Countless blood-eyed crows circled the skies, blotting out the sun and emitting dense demonic qi. Every single one of them was no weaker than a Foundation establishment cultivator. The sky suddenly darkened. Many of the Misty Peak disciples in the valley had ugly expressions on their faces. Fear flashed through the depths of their eyes. After all, such a scene was truly too shocking, and it caused one's hair to stand on end and shudder. The eyes of the crows shone with a blood-red light as they screeched continuously, glaring at the cultivators below as though they would swoop down at any moment and tear the Misty Peak disciples to shreds. Little Fatty's face was pale. He swallowed his saliva and said seriously, "The feathered beast this time is much stronger than the one we saw last time." At the entrance of Dongling Valley, a gigantic spirit vessel sped over and hundreds of cultivators jumped down from it. Among them, there were as many as 10 perfected Jin Dan. The rest were all Foundation establishment cultivators with varying cultivation realms. However, their numbers were several times more than the Misty Peak disciples. Coupled with the swarm of blood-eyed crows above their heads, be it in terms of perfected Jin Dan or Foundation establishment cultivators, Misty Peak was definitely disadvantaged. This was a situation of encirclement. There was no road to heaven, no door to hell. Among the hundreds of cultivators who alighted from the spirit vessel, the leader was a perfected Foundation establishment cultivator. He wore blood-colored robes with a crow pattern on his sleeves. His face was pale and his lips were curled into a sinister smile. The 10 perfected Jin Dan surrounded him, protecting him in the middle. "Who are you?" When Xian glared at the blood-robed cultivator and asked coldly with a talisman in his left hand and a flying sword hovering before him. "Fufu." The blood-robed cultivator chuckled and said leisurely, "Fellow Taoists, there's no need to be nervous. I have no ill intentions for this trip. Fellow Taoists, if you cooperate well, I'll bestow upon you a great opportunity." Pausing for a moment, the blood-robed cultivator changed the topic and said coldly, "However, if you don't know what's good for you, Fufu, don't blame me for starting a massacre." When Xian's fingers moved and conjured hand seals, spirit energy swirled around his fingertips as he prepared to attack. With a grim expression, Elder Yu stepped forward and shook his head, whispering, "Don't be rash. If we really fight, all of us disciples will die here. Let's check out his background first." Elder Yu raised his voice and asked, "Fellow Taoist, how should I address you? I'm more casual when it comes to this." The blood-robed cultivator smiled gently. "You can address me as young master or master. I won't force you since you like it." Elder Yu's expression turned terrible. Be it young master or master, it meant that he had to submit to this blood-robed cultivator. Elder Yu was a perfected being Jin Dan after all. There was no way he would agree to such a ridiculous request. "Junior, this place is less than 50 kilometers away from Misty Peak. If you use your spirit crane to send a message, it won't be long before experts of my sect rush over to provide reinforcements. Don't be too arrogant." Elder Yu said darkly. "Ha ha ha ha." The blood-robed cultivator roared in laughter. "Old dog, I'm giving you face but you don't want it. Firstly, with my blood crow army around, your spirit cranes won't be able to teleport out. Secondly, even if your spirit cranes are teleported out, you won't be able to last that long." When Xian harumphed coldly, "Elder Yu, there's no need to waste your breath on him. Since he's someone from the fiend sects, everyone has the right to kill him. I'm not from the fiend sections." The blood-robed cultivator sneered. "I'll give you guys one last chance. If all of you submit to me, I can spare your lives. Otherwise, I'll kill all of you without mercy." "Oh right. There's someone called Su Zimo among you guys. Whether you submit to me or not, I'll suppress you personally and torture you to death bit by bit." A series of sinister laughter came from the blood-robed cultivator's mouth. "Submit?" When Xian laughed as well. "Ask the sword in my hand first." Right then, the blood-robed cultivator raised his head and said indifferently, "Aren't you going to attack?" Before his sentence was finished, Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat and he hollered, "Everyone disperse. There's a traitor in the sect." When Xian was the fastest to react and crushed the protection talisman in his left palm right away. Instantly, a light barrier rose and enveloped him. Clang! There was a crisp sound. Sparks flew everywhere. A flying sword struck when Xian's protective light barrier, causing it to tremble and almost collapse. It was clear how strong that sword was. It was just a hair's breadth away. If when Xian had been slightly slower, he would have been a dead man. In reality, the reason why Wen Xian reacted immediately was because of Su Zimo's question on the spirit vessel. At that time, Wen Xian did not pay much attention to it. However, when he saw that a powerful faction had truly arrived and set up such an encirclement, Wen Xian vaguely realized that there might be a traitor in the sect and was wary. Otherwise, there was no way news of them coming to Dongling Valley today would have been leaked. Of course, that was a vague guess and Wen Xian had yet to verify it. Right then, when the blood-robed cultivator said that and Su Zimo hollered, Wen Xian crushed his protection talisman without hesitation. Sensing the terror of the sword behind him, Wen Xian understood that he had just walked through the gates of hell, and could not help but break out in cold sweat. Chapter 216. Elder Chan Yu. One of the sect elders at the side stared at Elder Chan, who had attacked Wen Xian with widened eyes. Before he could react to the situation, he asked in confusion. However, the moment he said that, his expression changed and he finally realized what had happened. Someone had betrayed the sect. That person was none other than Elder Chan, who was hiding among them. A chill ran down his spine and he instinctively took a step back. He placed his hand on his storage pouch and took out a protective talisman. However, Elder Chen's reaction was faster. Unable to kill Wen Xian with a single strike, Elder Chan turned his flying sword around right away and conjured hand seals with his left hand, releasing a bedazzling light. Swash! The spirit art and flying sword descended at the same time. The elder's reaction was slightly slower, and before he could crush the protection talisman in his hands, his throat was sliced by a single sword. Blood flashed. A perfected Jindan fell from midair. His life force dissipated and his eyes were filled with indignance and rage. Traitor! Wen Xian hollered and his sleeves trembled in rage. A massive wave of spirit energy that was almost corporeal surged over like a tsunami with a frightening might. Amidst the huge tide, there was also a faint trace of sharp light that was difficult to detect. Hee! Elder Chun laughed strangely and turned to escape without hesitation after his successful attack, crushing his protection talisman right away. At the same time, he conjured hand seals and the spirit energy of a late-stage Jindan gathered together. Waving his hand, a bedazzling light burst forth and clouds rose. Boom! The bedazzling light and clouds collided with the tsunami and let out a deafening bang. Wen Xian's spirit energy tsunami was clearly superior to Elder Chen's bedazzling light. Poof! There was a crisp sound as though something had broken. Elder Chen's expression changed starkly as he exclaimed. A fresh wound had appeared on his arm. Unknowingly, his protective barrier was pierced through by a superior-grade flying sword that shone with spirit light. This high-grade flying sword was hidden in the tide of spiritual power, appearing and disappearing unpredictably. No one had noticed when it had appeared. Clang! On the opposite side, a middle-aged man in a black Taoist robe snorted coldly and took half a step forward. With a light tap of his finger, a flying sword flew out. While the sword was still in the air, four blazing rays of light burst out. For spirit patterns, a supreme-grade flying sword. The extreme-grade flying sword and Wen Xian's high-grade flying sword collided heavily, causing spiritual light to splatter in all directions. It was difficult to determine the winner. Elder Chan took the opportunity to escape. The entire process took a long time to describe, but it actually happened in the blink of an eye. Wen Xian narrowed his eyes and waved his hand gently, causing the superior-grade flying sword to return. This black-robed Taoist master Jindan had the same cultivation realm as him, which was also at the Great Circle of Jindan. Moreover, Wen Xian could feel a trace of pressure from this person. There were 10 Jindan spiritual masters on the other side, and the two black-robed cultivators standing beside the blood-robed youth were the strongest. Both of their eyes were flowing with a faint green light, which was extremely strange. One of them was Taoist Master Jindan, who had just attacked. The other one exuded a rich demonic qi. By the looks of it, he should be a spirit demon at the Jindan realm. After demons cultivated their inner cores, their skin, flesh, tendons, bones, marrow, organs and senses would undergo a metamorphosis once more. This metamorphosis would allow demons to be reborn, allowing them to take on human form and speak the human language. These two were the blood slaves of Blood Crow Palace's lord, Peng Yu and Yu Fei, who were here to protect the young master. Elder Chan managed to escape with his life and arrived beside the blood-robed cultivator. He glared at Wenxian coldly and grit his teeth. As expected of Spirit Peak's master. You've already mastered level 3 of Ethereal Sword. Impressive, impressive. Ethereal Sword was one of the 3 great secret skills of Misty Peak, and was split into 3 levels. Level 1 Afterimage. As the flying sword sped through the air, it would leave behind a series of afterimages in midair, making it difficult to differentiate between the real and the fake. It had the effect of confusing the enemy. Back when Feng Haoyu fought with Su Zimo, Feng Haoyu had cultivated to level 1 Afterimage. Level 2 Nothingness. Because the flying sword was too fast, its body was almost fused into the void and was faintly discernible. It was difficult to spot it with one's eyes. Level 3 Ethereal. Not only was the speed of the flying sword at its maximum and the sword's body was incorporeal, it was difficult to detect. Cultivators would also be able to control their sword-wielding techniques as they wished, reaching a level of mastery. The speed was extremely fast, the sword's body was incorporeal, its direction uncertain, and its attacks ethereal. The third level was the hardest to cultivate. In Misty Peak, only perfected Jin Dan who had mastered level 3 of Ethereal Sword was qualified to become Spirit Peak's master. Furthermore, almost every single Spirit Peak's master was the strongest person in Misty Peak's Jin Dan realm. Just now, even though Elder Chan was protected by a protection talisman, he was still injured by Wenxian's sword. If Peng Yu had not intervened, Elder Chan would have died on the spot with the second sword. Changing the topic, Elder Chan sneered, however, all of you are going to die here today. None of you are going to leave. You can try. Wenxian was fearless as he stood in midair, shielding the many Misty Peak disciples. At that moment, Wenxian, Elder Yu and another sect elder were the only perfected Jin Dan left on Misty Peak's side. However, there were as many as 11 perfected Jin Dan cultivators on the other side, including Elder Chan. Right then something happened once more. Feng Haoyu, who was in the crowd, suddenly attacked. 3 spirit patterns shone on the sword. It was a superior grade flying sword. The flying sword streaked through the crowd and fresh blood gushed out. As one of the 3 legacy disciples, Luoyi, who was standing not far away from Feng Haoyu, could not react in time at all. His huge head was tossed high into the air and his eyes were filled with shock. Even at the moment of his death, he did not realize what had happened. This sword was completely reaping human life. One after another, disciples fell into pools of blood and died with grievances. Many Misty Peak disciples were caught off guard. Even though Su Zimo had reminded them loudly earlier on, Elder Chen's betrayal and the death of an elder of the sect immediately after. Peak Master Wenxian attacked and the clash between the perfected Jin Dan cultivators attracted everyone's attention. Su Zimo felt his scalp prickle as he grit his teeth. Killing intent surged in his heart and his eyes shone with endless coldness as an extremely terrifying aura emanated from his body. In reality, Su Zimo had already vaguely guessed that Elder Chan and Feng Haoyu were traitors. However, that was merely his speculation. Furthermore, Su Zimo did not know if there were anyone else who had betrayed the sect apart from the 2 of them. Therefore, Su Zimo's reminder was for everyone to disperse because there was a traitor in the sect. To think that his reminder would not be able to save his fellow sect members who had died. Those who died were the closest to Feng Haoyu. In other words, they were almost all Feng Haoyu's followers. But now, Feng Haoyu had slain them mercilessly without any hesitation and his eyes were filled with coldness and brutality. Feng Haoyu's initially handsome face looked extremely hideous and menacing right now. Among them, the one who suffered the greatest blow was Spirit Peak's Peak Master, Wenxian. Feng Haoyu was almost viewed as a personal disciple by Wenxian, and was taught everything he knew in his lifetime. Even the superior grade flying sword in Feng Haoyu's hands was given to him by Wenxian. One had to know that most Foundation establishment cultivators only possessed a middle grade flying sword. Even as the Peak Master of Spirit Peak, Wenxian's flying sword was merely superior grade. The fact that he gave a superior grade flying sword to Feng Haoyu was proof of how much he valued and loved the latter. But now, Chapter 217. Haoyu, have I Wenxian mistreated you? Has the sect let you down in any way? Give me a reason. A reason for betraying the sect. Turning around, Wen Xian's body trembled slightly as rage, shock, confusion, and deep disappointment flashed through his eyes. Elder Qin's betrayal did not crush Wen Xian. However, Feng Haoyu's betrayal dealt a huge blow to Wen Xian's mental state. When Feng Haoyu was still at the Qi condensation realm, Wen Xian requested the patriarch to impart ethereal sword to Feng Haoyu in advance. In the inner sect, apart from the 3 legacy disciples, Feng Haoyu was the only foundation establishment cultivator who had learned all 3 secret skills. Betrayal. Feng Haoyu sneered. I'm not someone from Misty Peak to begin with. The reason why I joined Misty Peak was because of the 3 secret skills. In other words, I've never treated you as my master. Rascal. Wen Xian said coldly, I'm going to kill you today. Old dog, we'll talk about that after you survive. Feng Haoyu sneered. All of a sudden, the 2 elders beside Wen Xian exclaimed, Watch out. Elder Yu and the other sect elder struck at the same time and intercepted the 2 flying swords. Swoosh. Swoosh. Right then, perfected being Jin Dan, Peng Yu, who was standing beside the blood-robed youth, suddenly strode forward with a cold expression. The spirit energy in the surroundings surged wildly. Around Peng Yu, a pitch-black gust of wind strangely condensed, whistling through the air. Sand and dust covered the sky. When he saw that, Elder Yu's expression changed starkly. The other sect elder's pupils constricted violently, and he was slightly slower. His flying sword was swept in by the black gust, and the sound of sand striking against the sword could be heard. Cling! Clang! Crack! In almost the blink of an eye, the flying sword shattered and dimmed, falling from midair. A superior-grade flying sword could not even last a single breath against the black gust. Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat when he saw that. Elder Yu's expression was terrible as he said slowly, Jin Dan's phenomenon, bone-corroding black gust. So that's Jin Dan's phenomenon. Su Zimo was secretly speechless. Although he had heard of how terrifying Jin Dan's phenomenon was, this was the first time he had seen it. Among the Taoist masters of Jin Dan, there were very few who could cultivate the Jin Dan phenomenon. Those who possessed a Jin Dan phenomenon could practically crush all perfected persons of Jin Dan who did not possess a phenomenon. Whether it was the Qi condensation realm, the foundation establishment realm, or the Jin Dan realm, the source of power was spirit Qi and spirit force. Cultivation and fighting were all done through spirit techniques. The Jin Dan phenomenon was the pinnacle of spirit arts. Among spirit arts, avatars reigned supreme. Therefore, below the nascent soul realm, those who possessed the Jin Dan phenomenon were the most powerful perfected Jin Dan cultivators. Die! Peng Yu's voice was cold as he waved his sleeve. The black wind condensed into a huge vortex, like an ancient beast opening its mouth, and instantly swallowed the Misty Peak elder. Wen Xian wanted to help, but it was already too late. Crack! The protective talisman on the elder's body shattered instantly. Ah! A series of bone-chilling screams could be heard. Against the black wind, the flesh on the elder's body began to dissipate. Within a few breaths, there was only a pitch-black skeleton left with no signs of life. Ah! Another blood-curdling scream was heard. A perfected Jin Dan from Blood Crow Palace was suddenly struck by a rain droplet and countless bloody holes appeared on his body. That person was riddled with holes and his gaze dimmed as he fell from midair. It was clear that he was not going to survive. Drip! Drip! It was only then that everyone heard the sound of raindrops falling. It was getting denser, clearer, and more hurried. Where did the rain come from? Everyone turned towards the sound, only to see that around Wen Xian, heavy rain suddenly started pouring down in torrents. The raindrops were long and thin like swords, emitting an incomparably sharp glint. Jin Dan phenomenon, ethereal sword rain. Against Wen Xian's Jin Dan phenomenon, the perfected Jin Dan of Blood Crow Palace could not retaliate at all and died on the spot. The reason why Wen Xian was able to maintain his composure despite the fact that there were 10 perfected Jin Dan opponents and even Elder Chen's betrayal was because he was at perfected Jin Dan and had even cultivated a Jin Dan phenomenon. Even if there were 10 perfected Jin Dan opponents, Wen Xian was confident that he could kill all of them here. That was the might of a Jin Dan phenomenon. But now, when Peng Yu released a Jin Dan phenomenon as well, Wen Xian realized that something was amiss. To be precise, it was an extremely serious matter of life and death. As a Jin Dan realm spirit demon, Yufei had a calm expression as he escorted the blood-robed youth to the ground. The blood-robed youth sneered and waved his hand. Split the battlefield. Peng Yu. Kill the remaining 2 Jindan perfected beings in the air as soon as possible. Leave the other Foundation establishment cultivators to us. Understood. In midair, Peng Yu nodded in agreement. On the ground, the hundreds of Foundation establishment cultivators of Blood Crow Palace circled around Yufei and the blood-robed youth with a murderous aura and charged towards the disciples of Misty Peak. Don't linger on. Break out of the encirclement and inform the sect. When he saw that, Wen Xian hollered and gave the order decisively. At that moment, he and Elder Yu could not even protect themselves and could not provide support at all. In reality, the blood-robed youth's so-called splitting of the battlefield was for Peng Yu and the other Jindan perfected beings to hold Wen Xian and the others in midair so that they could kill them. As for the Foundation establishment cultivators, they would fight on the ground. That way, be it the Jindan battlefield or the Foundation establishment battlefield, Blood Crow Palace would have complete control of the situation. Break out. The blood-robed youth reared his head in laughter. Stop dreaming. I have no intention of letting you guys leave this place alive today. None of you will be able to escape. Bang! 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 Right then, Peng Yu's bone-corroding black wind and Wen Xian's ethereal sword rain collided with a loud bang. The 2 completely different phenomenons clashed in midair in a frightening manner. Both of their Jindan phenomenons were similar in strength and it was difficult to tell who was superior within a short period of time. Apart from Peng Yu, Blood Crow Palace had 9 other perfected Jindan perfected beings. As for Wen Xian, Elder Yu was the only one left. Kill! Elder Chun hollered and took the initiative to attack mercilessly. Elder Yu grit his teeth and defended with all his might. However, he fell into a disadvantage instantly and was in grave danger time after time. He could lose his life at any moment. When he saw that, Wen Xian howled and channeled his Jindan furiously, injecting spirit energy into the phenomenon without any regard for his life. Swoosh! Waving his sleeves, Wen Xian swept up an endless sword rain that enveloped Elder Chan and the others. You must have a death wish. Peng Yu harumphed coldly and a black wind howled over, almost forming a tornado that connected the heavens and the earth as it sucked in the falling sword rain. Poof! 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 The 2 phenomenons clashed once more and intertwined with one another in an increasingly intense manner. Wen Xian's face was pale and his body swayed. At that moment it was equivalent to him fighting against 10 perfected Jindan perfected beings alone. Furthermore, one of the 10 perfected Jindan perfected beings possessed a Jindan phenomenon. He could not hold on for long. Chapter 218. On the ground, hundreds of Foundation establishment cultivators from Blood Crow Palace had already swarmed over. Wen Xian and Elder Yu were trapped in midair and could not extricate themselves. Right now the situation was clear. The disciples of Misty Peak only had a single path escape. Furthermore, they did not have much time left. If Wen Xian and Elder Yu could not hold on, they would not only be facing hundreds of Foundation establishment cultivators, but also perfected Jindan's pursuit. Hurry and leave! The leader of the legacy disciples, Qin Yu, hollered and turned to flee, not daring to linger. The other legacy disciple, Ji Chengtian, followed closely behind. Many Misty Peak disciples rode on their flying swords and fled in all directions, sprinting towards the exit of Dongling Valley. Bro, senior sister Lung, let's escape. Little Fatty called out with a nervous expression and sweating profusely. Lung Ro nodded. Both of them looked towards Su Zimo instinctively. At that moment Su Zimo narrowed his gaze and exuded a cold killing intent. The supreme grade flying sword hovered in his palm, quivering endlessly. Naturally, Su Zimo knew that the smartest thing to do right now was to escape as much as possible. However, he was indignant. You guys leave first. I'll go kill that man. Su Zimo waved his sleeves and the supreme grade flying sword in his palm shone with 4 bedazzling spirit lights. With a swoosh, it tore through the air and pierced towards Feng Haoyu in the distance. Boom! At the same time, Su Zimo took a step forward with his left foot and stomped heavily on the ground. Exerting strength in his legs, he sprinted like a divine steed, leaving a series of afterimages behind him. Feng Haoyu felt an extremely sharp sharpness piercing into his back. The air was being torn apart, emitting a strange sizzling sound. Frowning, Feng Haoyu adjusted his flying sword without hesitation and channeled Ethereal Sword's secret skill. Swoosh! The sword quivered gently and disappeared into the voids. Because it was too fast, the superior-grade flying sword was almost fused into the voids, turning transparent and difficult to detect. In terms of sword kinesis, Feng Haoyu was indeed far superior to Su Zimo. Clang! Feng Haoyu's flying sword was launched later but arrived first, actually intercepting Su Zimo's flying sword. Sparks flew everywhere. Supreme-grade flying sword. Feng Haoyu noticed the 4 spirit patterns on Su Zimo's flying sword, and his gaze turned fervent with a hint of greed. Feng Haoyu, hand over your life. Su Zimo's voice resounded like a thunderclap, and his imposing aura and piercingly cold killing intent rumbled over while carrying an unparalleled aura. Feng Haoyu's expression changed drastically. Su Zimo, you dare. Feng Haoyu had not expected that. Not only did Su Zimo not choose to escape, he even dared to charge towards hundreds of Foundation establishment cultivators. Su Zimo was naturally aware that in terms of sword-driving technique, he could not compare to Feng Haoyu. Even if he possessed a supreme-grade flying sword, he could at most fight to a draw with Feng Haoyu in a battle of flying swords. Therefore, Su Zimo bringing out the flying sword was only for the sake of attracting Feng Haoyu's attention. His true killing move was yet to come. Right now, the distance between Su Zimo and Feng Haoyu was less than 5 steps. Within 5 steps, even if Feng Haoyu was at perfected Foundation establishment, he would have to die here. Boom! Su Zimo punched in reverse and his right arm drew a gigantic arc in midair. Using his fist as a seal, he caused the air to explode with a deafening sound. Unable to dodge in time, Feng Haoyu crushed the protection talisman in his hands right away. A barrier of light rose. Bang! The gigantic seal smashed against the barrier of light with unparalleled ferocity. Snap! A Grade 2 protection talisman was shattered by a single punch from Su Zimo. Pust! Feng Haoyu gasped and his pupils constricted. Su Zimo's expression was cold and his eyes shone with a chilling killing intent as he strode forward and punched out once more. This punch directly sealed off all of Feng Haoyu's possible escape routes. Feng Haoyu spun around and with a whoosh, a pair of gigantic wings extended from his back in a sinister manner. That pair of wings was different from real wings, and was condensed using a secret skill to channel spirit energy. That secret skill was the other great secret skill of Misty Peak, Ethereal Wings. Ethereal Wings was considered as an auxiliary technique. It meant that Foundation establishment cultivators could soar into the air without the use of any external objects. Just like perfected Jin Dan, Ethereal Wings was much more agile than sword kinesis flight for cultivators. If used properly, it could provide a clear boost to a cultivator's overall strength. Given the current situation, even if Feng Haoyu were to turn and run on the ground, he would definitely not be able to escape Su Zimo's pursuit. If he were to use sword kinesis flight, he would have to summon his flying sword and would be slightly slower. The only way he could escape was to conjure ethereal wings. Swoosh! Flapping his wings, Feng Haoyu soared into the air and sped towards the skies. This change was completely out of Su Zimo's expectations. Seeing that his punch was about to miss, Su Zimo stomped on the ground and made use of the rebound force to leap up. Crackle! At the same time, Su Zimo's tendons and bones rang together. Suddenly, his right arm expanded by a foot and his fist turned into a palm, grabbing towards Feng Haoyu's back. Shing! Fresh blood filled the air. Ah! A tragic cry sounded from midair. Su Zimo tore off a huge chunk of flesh from Feng Haoyu's left leg, revealing the tendons and bones within in a shocking manner. If Feng Haoyu had reacted slightly slower, his heart would have been dug out. Su Zimo's figure descended. Feng Haoyu flapped his ethereal wings and was in so much pain that he broke out in cold sweat. Escaping to the blood-robed youth's side, Feng Haoyu panted heavily and turned back with lingering fear. At that moment, the hundreds of Foundation establishment cultivators of Blood Crow Palace had already charged over with flying swords and spirit arts raining down. Not only was the blood-robed youth beside Feng Haoyu, there was also a Jin Dan realm spirit demon. It was no longer realistic for Su Zimo to rush over and kill Feng Haoyu. Gritting his teeth, Su Zimo retreated. Swoosh! The supreme-grade flying sword tore through the voids and returned to Su Zimo's side, slaying a Foundation establishment cultivator. Bang! A Foundation establishment cultivator had just charged over when his body exploded with a casual punch from Su Zimo. His flesh exploded and he died on the spot. Splash! Su Zimo channeled his bloodline and the terrifying sound of a tsunami could be heard from within his body, surging with a frightening aura. In the vast crowd, Su Zimo was like an ancient demon with a menacing aura. Poof! 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 Su Zimo strode forward with the plow heaven stride. The cultivators in front of him exploded on the spot as their flesh and blood splattered everywhere, leaving behind a ground filled with broken corpses and rivers of blood. Stepping on the corpses and rivers of blood, Su Zimo charged out of Dongling Valley like a god of death. Not far away, the blood-robed youth's gaze landed on Su Zimo, and he exclaimed softly with a curious expression. What a strong bloodline. Interesting. Who is that? The blood-robed youth asked. Gulping, Feng Haoyu said in a deep voice, that's Su Zimo. He's the one who killed young master's blood slave outside Linfeng City. I finally found him. The blood-robed youth smiled and said leisurely, it's truly a pity to kill someone with such a bloodline. I want him to become my blood slave and serve me as his master for the rest of his life.